Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third installment of the New England Melee podcast with your hosts, Glock and Electro Man. We wanted to do another episode, because it's been a while. I've been super busy. Again, obviously, has also been busy. So it's been hard to find a time to make everything work. But we figured, with the season kind of coming to a close, we have what, like 6 weeks or something left here? Like a month and a
Something like
half?
that. Yep.
And with collision and the summer of majors wrapping up, we figured no time better than right now to kind of give some insight as to what's going on in New England. So yeah, welcome. We're also going to have some interviews later in this episode with Arty and Greenstach. So it's going to be like a general debrief of the season so far, how things have been looking over the summer, and then some interviews for the first time that will be conducted by Gent. So we got a pretty jam packed episode here. Gent, you wanna say some stuff before we get started?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's just nice to be back. And I think we're going to get into it, but I think the summer has been wild, to say the least. And we've had some really interesting results. So I'm just happy we can talk about this and kind of, debrief with everybody, especially if you're not like following along all the time. If someone's watching that's not always following every single part of the scene, I think this is a chance to get to know some of the things that have been happening. So. Yeah. So first, we're going to start with obviously the interviews will be a little later, but we're going to start with some regionals and do like a season overview because there's been a bunch of different regionals. The summer is always stacked with your Mass Madnesses, your Fotai big modes, your Giga Hogs and stuff like that, and other stuff. So we definitely want to get into that because that's kind of where the big storylines have been. And if you guys remember, the first big one that we talked about, I remember our first episode, I think at the end, we had mentioned that Mass Madness 50 was going to be this huge event because it's obviously the 10-year anniversary and it was going to be like the start of the new season. So that's kind of where we're starting at. And Mass Madness 50 was so interesting. Obviously, we had, I think the top three was Calvar, Ember, Tori, which was, I guess you could call that boring, I suppose, but the rest of the bracket was kind of wild. I think the person I want to highlight for sure is Arty because I think coming into the event, probably, I think Arty had not a rough season last season, but not like a anything special season, particularly because he tends to stay in Connecticut, and so it makes it hard for him to, rack up wins. And so kind of going into Mass Madness 50, I think people underrated him perhaps, and obviously people know how good Artie is, but it was really cool to see because he came into the event and even though he lost to Ember in winners, he went on this huge run in losers where he beat Conflict, which obviously he plays Conflict all the time, but still great win, and then beat Project in the first round of top eight. And then after beating Project, he actually also beat Glock
He
as
did.
well. So it was a wild ride, especially again, we just came off of the new PR, and to see RD or immediately be like, okay, I'm just gonna come in and show people what I'm made of. It was really cool to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just stoked on that tournament in general. I feel like that was probably the best, maybe not necessarily the biggest in terms of number, but probably the best monthly we've had in some time in terms of the both like the width and the depth of the player talent that was there. And just like I'm always, maybe it's the fact I've been playing for like 10, 11 years, but it's just different at Game Underground, man. Like
Yeah, yeah,
something about
it
that
is.
venue is like that is where the big stuff happens. So when you get a big depth of players, especially like we had, 13, 14 PR level players at that
Yep,
tournament in that building, it's just different, man. And that tournament
it
was
is.
super exciting. I mean, I got fifth and was pretty like I was bummed obviously because I lost to Artie. Like I want to win that and I wanted the all New Hampshire top four obviously, uh but it was just a baller tournament. It was a ton of fun. I remember I had some crazy battles at that one. There were some crazy upsets. I know Arteland beat
Yep,
Project at that tournament and winners.
that was wild.
Yeah, that tournament was super exciting. It was definitely a very big like big splash to start the season. Maybe not in terms of like there wasn't like a couple people that went on like crazy runs and it was like oh my god what's happening, but it was just like I feel like we had arguably the best tournament of the season at the very beginning. Just in terms
Yeah,
of like the scope of it all. So that tournament was
it was
awesome.
kind of like our Genesis in a way, a little bit, right? Like because Genesis is always at the start of the year, and Match Madness 50 had nearly 100 people enter, which I think is still the most if you don't count like I guess actually it might even be the most because CT GamerCon isn't in this season, and we didn't have another huge tournament that was like a major national S. So I think Match Madness 50 might have been the big. I could be wrong, but I think it was our biggest. At the very least, it's up there.
Of the ranking
And
period, yeah, no, I think it is the biggest of the ranking period.
yeah, it was wild.
Because wavelength is
So
not going to be in the ranking period, I don't think.
yeah, no, it won't be. Yeah, Vacation Land, those tournaments will be later, like in the next season.
Yeah,
So it was wild. I also want to highlight two other players that I think joint. I want to include them together here because I think their runs they happened jointly and they ended up playing each other too, which was Heavenly Sunflower, Load Spiller, Danny, whatever you want to call him, the Cove Care Scare, and Isaac, the Arbiter, Kuro. A lot of different tags here between amongst these two players, but they went on some great runs. They both got top eight, so we had like two really interesting and not usually seen characters in top eight of our biggest tournament, which was wild. Danny ended up beating uh, Greenstach really early in the tournament, Yusuf and Artland. So he went on a huge run, and then Isaac beat Gwex to make top eight, which I remember that pop off was wild, and it was just really cool to see two players that you don't usually see in top eight. Again, like it's a splash of a tournament, and you got to see these two players that you don't usually see in top eights up there.
yeah, I think for sure, especially like because the rest of the top eight was really familiar faces. Like Arty getting fourth is obviously like a big deal and was a really really good showing. But seeing Arty in top eight of a regional is not like that's not new, right? That's not news. And then you have David, Tori, Ember, me, and Project also like really familiar faces. So it's like six out of the top eight is like very feasible placers.
Yeah,
And then Bowser and Ganon, and it's like, well, holy moly, like just really, really cool at the biggest tournament of the
yeah,
period too. So that was sick.
yeah.
Um,
So thank you, Tom, for running great tournament. Very well done as always.
yeah,
So that's Mass Madness 50. I will say we're gonna go through a couple. We can't go through every single tournament. There's also some that I think people could consider like a regional. There's like some Melee at the Elms that got a lot of entrants, but I think we wanted to include, tournaments that had a bunch of PR players and that are kind of usually seen. There is a Melee at the Elm we'll talk about later, but um, so anyway, yeah. So there's a lot. We can't talk about everything. But the next one I think that was pretty big was Gigahog, which, and between this there was like an Ulsan All Stars that happened as well, but that was not as many people. Ulsan All Stars 4, um, but at Gigahog 8.1, this was like the next big tournament of the summer for sure, I would say, and this tournament was super interesting. I think this tournament gave us a glimpse of kind of what was to come later in the season, in particular with Nariel. So the top three was really interesting. Even though Calvar was the first seed, he ended up getting upset by Epoodle, who got first, and then Calvar got second, and then actually Glock got third, which with a great one we'll definitely talk about. I'll definitely let you talk about yourself there, but I want to really highlight Nariel at this tournament because Nariel I think again, it was a glimpse of what was to come later in the season, and Nariel will definitely talk about. And he really outperformed at this tournament. He ended up beating Glitch, which was a wild win. I think Glitch is the New York Falcon, and nobody really I think expected to make a big run, and Nariel upset him, and that was really cool to see. So that's kind of the person I definitely want to highlight.
yeah. I think that tournament in general was like I don't know. I think it kind of gets almost a little slept on because if you look at the bracket or even just look at the seating of that tournament, it might have had, I think it had like 54 entrants or something like that. It was between 50 and 60. And in terms of PR level talent, I think it was just as stacked as Mass Madness. Despite
Yeah,
having basically half as many entrants, it still had, like, I think Greenstash was like the 12 seed or something, or like the 13 seed. It was crazy. I mean, there was Arty, I don't think played because he was like he had stuff going on. He was busy that whole day. But there was
right.
David, there was Bonfire, there was Nariel, there's me, there was Glitch, Epoodle, Greenstash, Saucy Mane, Ember was there. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think
Um,
Ember was there, but I
no,
was
Ember wasn't
there.
there. You were
Ari was
there.
there.
Yeah, Arn, all of the Connecticut guys, Conflict, obviously.
Yep.
Um, yeah, like that tournament was essentially just as stacked, like maybe a hair less, but essentially just as stacked as the Mass Madness that happened just a couple weeks prior. And it was also just a bloodbath of a tournament. I mean, you mentioned Nariel obviously went on a huge run. I also went on a pretty big run. I played I played Brub and barely won that. And then I played Glitch and beat him, lost to Calvar. That's life. And then I played Bonfire and won, and I played Nariel and won to end
Yeah,
up at third, losing to Calvar twice, which again, like that'll happen.
that'll
Um,
happen.
but
I remember
I
that.
was stoked with third at that tournament, especially after having that slightly sour taste after Mass Madness, being like fifth is good, but like obviously had some sets I wanted to win. Third at Gigahog felt really really good, especially beating Tori and Nariel, who since then have just gone on a tear this season, like very likely to be top 3 or 4 on this upcoming PR. So
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
looks good for me. I'm glad I did well at that tournament because boy,
No,
those
yeah,
the stocks have gone up.
absolutely. Yeah. The other player, I think, I mean, again, this tournament had so many interesting runs. Like Ben ended up upsetting me to make top eight, Saucy Main, and we had, I think, the other one that I really wanted to mention was Oz at this tournament. So
Hmm.
Oz ended up beating Greenstash early in the losers bracket. I think Greenstash was out. I think that might have been like 13th or 17th or something like that, and it was probably Oz's first. I think it was Oz's first New England PR win, which uh, I think is probably a. We'll see probably that more happen. I think because he's been grinding a lot of melee like this entire season. I think his season has been better than last season, but it was that win that really kind of cemented people in people's minds. Like, okay, Oz is actually starting to grind a lot now, and we're seeing the results of that. So Oz was really cool to see there as well.
Yeah, somebody we talked about in our first pod episode too, as like everyone kind of knows this guy's stock is rising. Especially cool because he had come so close to beating Greenstach. I think he had like 4 game 5s with him at Fotis and SSSs. So like there was a bit of a saga there of like Oz bringing it to
There
game
was.
5 and just getting clutched on, or like just not quite having enough gas to get there for the upset. But then he finally did at like one of the biggest tournaments. So that was
Yeah,
super cool. Good call.
not easy to do.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Um,
So
yeah, go ahead.
Gigahog, yeah, Gigahog was definitely a ride. And again, like I think the summer of Melee in New England was just kind of wild. Every week there was something new. Like I think it's just to go back and look at the calendar. It's really, really cool to see that. So the next tournament to talk about, to not to put too much on myself, but I do think it was another important tournament to talk about for the season, which is Fotai Big Moon number 2. That was I don't know if it was the week after or 2 weeks after, but it was the tournament up in New Hampshire. I think it's a newer monthly slash regional that New Hampshire's been running now. It's basically just at the Fotai venue, but just much bigger. And this tournament had like I think 50 entrants or something like that. I was there. Amber was there. Golden was there. David was there, and I think Greenstach and Trail. It was a stacked tournament in New Hampshire, which I think it was the first 50 plus person bracket in New Hampshire in like a while. I don't know if
Yeah.
that doesn't happen. Hasn't happened recently as far as I can
No, it
remember.
doesn't
So
happen like ever. We don't get 50 in New Hampshire. And this
yeah,
tournament was really, really big. I think basically it was all of New Hampshire except I wasn't there and I don't think Tori was there either. I don't think
yeah,
Bonfire was
Tori
at
was
that
there.
tournament. So it was one of those things where like the 3 through 8 range of seeds was like a total bloodbath. Like any of those matchups could go either way. And it was, if I'm being honest, like as somebody who wasn't there, I'm still a bracket watcher even when I'm not present. And I definitely looked at it and was like, yeah, it'll probably be David Ember. Like it's one of those tournaments, where like David and Ember are really, really good. And in New Hampshire, like they tend to win a lot. And like I just kind of had a feeling that would be Grands. And I remember following that tournament closely and being, surprised and impressed when I saw that fucking Ghent took it down. You just won straight up.
Yeah, it
Um,
was it was wild.
Correct me if
It
I'm
was
wrong. You beat Ember in semis and then beat David twice straight up, right? In
yes,
winners and
that's right.
grands.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's insane.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
No,
insane.
this tournament. So actually, this tournament's interesting because the month beforehand. I had been actually working with Dr. Lame a little bit from Maine, and we did like 3 or 4 coaching sessions, and we just talked about David. Like I think in total we probably talked about him for like 5 hours amongst like across all the different coaching sessions. And I worked a lot on the matchup, a lot. And David has since actually adapted back, which is really, really cool to see. But I went into the tournament like really confident. I was like, okay, I just need to play David, and I know I can win because like I've been working on the matchup. I'm confident. And so I think Ember was probably I think this was Ember's first tournament in a while. I don't think she had entered uh, actually, she hadn't entered since Mass Madness, so it'd been like at least a month or so. She didn't go to Gigahog, so it was at least a month of like not entering a tournament, and then she had to play I think one of her weaker matchups, which is Fox, and I think she got tilted a little bit, so I ended up kind of just cleanly winning that. But obviously, Ember's very very good, and then David like I sat down to play him, and I was like, I'm ready to play and I was able to clutch it out. Game 5, it was a wild ending, and then I was like, okay, I need to close it in grands because if you let David kind of get momentum in the first set, it's really difficult because he starts getting reads. He gets really confident in his reads, and then you have to play from the back foot, and it's really difficult. So I was like, okay, I need to close it. We went game 5. I ended up hitting a wild combo on Stadium, I think, and just up throw up air and won the tournament just like that. It was my first uh, regional win, like regional level win, I would say. I've won bigger tournaments that were like weeklies, like bigger NGPs and stuff like that, but I don't really consider I don't consider them on the same level as Hotel. Like this was a great run, and it was really 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 cool to kind of put my practice out there. So yeah, really really cool.
Yeah, that tournament was awesome. I think, to put it simply, beating David twice to win a tournament, beating Calvar twice to win a tournament. I would guess that in the last 2 years in New England, there's probably like 4 people that have done that, period. Like, I know Ember's done it. I know Tori's done it. I know you've done it. I know I've done it. I think that might be it in the last like 2 years of New England. People to just straight up beat Calvar twice to win a tournament. It just doesn't
Yeah,
happen. It really just
it
doesn't.
does that.
Like maybe Golden has done it. Golden is a sneaky Calvar beater a lot of the time. Speaking of which, Golden also kind of shredded at that big foe.
Yes.
He did really really well. He
Yeah.
did get fourth, correct? I don't have the bracket right in front of me.
No, he didn't get fourth. He got fifth,
Yeah,
but this was Golden's first tournament in a while,
yeah,
too, if I can remember correctly. And he beat kind of a demon matchup for him, which is Cool Slice, which always has had his number, I think. Maybe not always, but at least since he switched to Contraption,
yep.
has had his number. And he beat Cool Slice, and then he ended up beating Future Shock, who had made a run into top 8, and then went game 5 with Ember, I believe, and ended it there. But still, like it was just cool to see Jack come back and do really well. Which this is also later on when we get to SSS that happened a little later in the season. It's a little foreshadowing because he had a great run at SSS
Yep.
as well. So
Yep, Golden
yeah,
sneaky. Golden sneaky. I mean, last PR period, he was like right on that bubble fringe between like 14 and 17. And he's one of those people that he has done it against everybody. That's the thing I think that people sometimes like maybe don't forget, but they don't realize about Golden is that when it comes to like big set, big moment experience, he has more than pretty much anybody in New England. Like
yeah,
he's beaten Calvar more than almost anybody in New England. Period. Of all the people that are actively playing. He probably has more Calvar wins than basically anybody playing right now. He has more wins on most of the region than almost anybody playing. Like he has been in those spots and he has delivered time and time again. So he's one of those people that like people forget because he's kind of hot and cold. He's kind of on and off, from month to month or from period to period. But he still has it like that, man. Like I still celebrate every golden win because boy, it's never easy against him.
it is
Um,
not. It is not. It's cool to see. I think he is making a. I don't know if we'll talk too much about PR in this one, but he is making a run. I think he probably is in the 14, 15 range this time around, which is really cool to see. And that's primarily because of this tournament and also SSS,
yeah.
which we'll get to later.
Yeah, but first
So
we gotta get to one of the craziest tournaments in recent New England Melee history, which is Mass Madness 51.
yes,
Um,
dude.
I was not at this tournament. My attendance has been spotty this period, so I haven't been at all these tournaments that I'm discussing. But boy, I poured over this bracket because this is one of the craziest brackets that we've seen in New England in a long time. For anybody who isn't aware or hasn't heard, Calvar, who normally kind of runs things, like him not being in Grands at a regional is a rare sight. He was not in Grands. He got third, and Grands was between Eduporp, the Captain Falcon from Maine, and Nariel, who we talked about earlier, the Pika from Connecticut. So two players that I don't think either of them had won a regional of this caliber in New England. I don't even know if either of them had been in grands of a regional of this caliber in New England, and they were
Yeah.
playing for the win at one of the bigger regionals that we've had this period. Just one of the wildest tournaments that has happened. I'll let you say a little more on it because you were
No, yeah,
actually
this
in the
tournament.
room.
No, yeah, this tournament was just, oh my gosh. I think because going into it, I think there was a lot of different thoughts, right? Because we had just got like the week before there was Fotai Big Mode, which I had won, and so I think there was a lot of that was in people's minds, like, okay, how's Electroman going to do at this tournament? And then also we just had Gigahog, where Nariel had put on a really great show, beat Glitch, and I think got fourth at that tournament. And so he was in people's minds because he doesn't always go to every major or regional, but he was going to Mass Madness, and so he was on people's minds. And then you had obviously David, of course, but Eduport was the person that people don't see like ever. They obviously he's in Maine and he does really well in Maine. He's been number one in Maine for the last two seasons, but I think people were like, okay, every time he comes out to a tournament, he kind of just performs to a seed or underperforms sometimes because he's not as like experienced. And I can say for sure he went into this tournament confident. Like I remember him talking about, I'm trying to play everybody. I know I can win. And I think the other thing is that these players like are typically going to be scared of Poor because they don't have any experience against him, right? They don't ever play him, And so when Tori goes up to play Poor, who plays nothing like Golden, she doesn't really know what to expect or how to prepare for him. And Porp was able to win that game five, and then he beat me game five, which is another hard matchup for him. Fox, that's tough for him. And then he had to play David, which I think is it's a comfort matchup for Porp and not a comfort matchup for David, and just cleanly beat him. Like I remember, even though it was 3-1, you wouldn't believe it. Like you'd think he just kind of owned him the entire time. David looked. I think that was the first set I'd ever seen David in New England be that lost. I'd never seen him that lost before. It was kind of wild. And then he lost to Nario, who made a huge run in losers. So I think this was just kind of a culmination of different storylines that had been kind of building throughout the season, and we got an incredible grand finals. It was just so fun to watch, and Porp is my boy. I love Porp, and so it was super cool to see him close it. Yeah, tournament was amazing.
Yeah, just one of the wilder like grand final or like just one of the wilder matchups that we've seen at like the top level of New England Melee. And one of those things that, it's inevitable when something like that happens that you always wonder like, man, was this tournament just like crazy? Like just all the right dominoes fell, like all this weirdness happened. But we learned later in the period. I'm gonna jump ahead so we can just talk about it now because I feel like it's related.
Yeah,
Um, it history kind of repeated itself at G Town's birthday bash, or All Stars
yes,
5, I think was the official name of that tournament, which was also probably the most stacked tournament of the PR period. I don't know. It wasn't the biggest, I don't think, because Mass Madness 50 was bigger, but I think that G Town's birthday tournament, the All Stars 5, was the most stacked bracket that we saw in this ranking period. And
yeah,
probably
it had
my
everybody.
probably my favorite tournament of the ranking period, just in terms of being in the room. And when I say history repeated itself, I mean that Eduporp and Nariel were also in the tippy top of that tournament. They didn't play in grands, but they got second and third respectively. So it was one of those things where when Mass Madness 51 happened, everyone was kind of like, "Wow, this is crazy. This is nuts. Is this actually the future of New England, or is it just like this one crazy tournament?" And then a month later or 2 months later or whatever, it was like, "Oh no, they're just back in top three again." Like crazy,
Exactly.
crazy stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
it's so cool to see. Austin All Stars 5 was. I wish I could have made it. I wasn't in the country at the time, but watching it from afar, I remember it was just like, holy crap! Like we have another near 100-person tournament, and it's all gonna fit in. also in the BP venue, which is just kind of wild. And yeah, we saw an exact pretty much a repeat. Not everything was the same, but a repeat top three from Mass Madness 51. And I think that these players are dangerous, and I think that we'll get to this in a second, but like I think if you look at the regionals, you have obviously David is winning most things, but in this particular timeline that we're in the last like 2 or 3 months, I don't think we've seen this many unique like first time winners of a tournament uh, in a row or in this short of amount of time before in terms of this level of tournaments. Like we've seen obviously David winning and Tori, got one as well, but of course Porp and myself also won one, and then Nariel is just like randomly in all these top threes. So I think to kind of I guess sum up the summer, it's just been like there's so much even and there's still stuff that we didn't get to, or there's like a lot more things like obviously there's Golden's run in SSS where he beat a bunch of different players, and there's people making top eights that have never made top eights before. But I think seeing the uniqueness in every top eight and every top three is like something I haven't seen before in New England, and I think it is indicative of some kind of change for sure.
Yeah, and this is something that I have talked about a bunch, both on this pod and elsewhere. I'll say it to anybody who will listen in real life, is that the last few years, there's kind of been a prevailing narrative, or maybe not even prevailing, but there's been a narrative that a lot of the time the monthlies in New England are a little stale. Like we had that stretch in, um, I think it was like mid 2024, where there were a bunch of regionals in a row where it was like the winter semis matchups were basically all New Hampshire. It was like every tournament was basically David, Tori, Ember, me, and a couple other
Yeah,
people. And it was basically like a half year or a year long period where New Hampshire was at its like most dominant. And it felt like, we were in this era or whatever of New Hampshire being the best. And that was reflected on the last PR. But I've been saying to people that it's one of those things that always goes in cycles. Where like when I was first getting good, so to speak, in like 2018, 19, it was Connecticut. And it was like 4 out of the top 6 or 5 out of the top 7 on the PR were from Connecticut. And it was one of
yeah,
those things where, New Hampshire was good, but Connecticut was winning everything. And it was like every tournament to 4 out of the top 5 placers were Connecticut. And it's one of those things that always moves in cycles where,
yeah,
I'm not saying that New Hampshire has fallen off or that anybody in New Hampshire is less good than they were a year ago. It's just one of those things where people catch up fast. It happens
yeah,
fast. There's so much young blood in Connecticut and Eduport up in Maine, and obviously you're holding it down for Massachusetts. Like there's so many people that are always getting better to the point where a period of stagnation just can't happen in a game this competitive and in a scene this competitive. And I think that this summer, just this last 3 months of Melee, has proven that a million times over. Like you said, 4 different people have won a regional, which is kind of crazy to begin with, um, and including you and Eduport, who had never won a regional in the area before. Like that is indicative of. I don't even know if it's necessarily indicative of change. It's just indicative of the fact that any narrative that the scene is stale or that things are predictable is just complete BS.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
think is there another tournament that you wanted to highlight in particular?
I do want to highlight one tournament.
Yeah.
This is my tournament. My and some other folks that
Oh, Star League, right?
worked really hard. I really want to highlight
Yes.
Star League because this was a uh, obviously the season itself of Star League ran from January to June, but it was a like 9 or 10 month project that we worked on, that my team worked on, and it was so cool to finally have like an in-person invitational event again. There was 2 days. You have to remember this event was 2 days. Groups were on Saturday and Sunday was the final bracket. And we haven't had like a 2 day invitational bracket before in years, like probably before my time, like before 2020, when there was the summit and everything like that, and the New England Invitational, so it was really cool to see it happen again, and it was just a culmination of so much work that my team put in, from uh, just to give some shout outs like Motobug, who put so much time into our graphics, Arcanist, who put so much time into our production, and was always there running the stream for us like throughout all the different months. Groggy, Rudero, like all these guys that we worked together on to make it happen. So it was really cool to make it happen, and the tournament was wild. Like obviously David ended up winning, which is not a surprise. He's a very very good player, obviously. But we had Q getting second, which hadn't he'd been inactive for like 6 months or something like that.
Yep.
Comes back, just owns everybody, gets second
Crazy,
place.
crazy
It
run.
was wild. And then I think, because you talk about staleness, right? Like how we're not stale. Like top eight had a Kirby boiler guy who, you know, people had talked about, like, okay, he's starting to enter more, he's going to GGRI, he's doing these tournaments, but like he's not coming to regionals. And Star League, my big intention was, can we get people we've never seen before play each other? And boiler guy qualified, made it in, and just owned all the way into top eight, which we've never seen a Kirby in our top eights like ever in New England history. So if that's not stale, I don't know what isn't stale. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I thought Star League was really cool. I was on the outside looking in for Star League just because I'm not a net play guy. I wasn't super interested in participating in like the whole circuit aspect of it, but I supported it and I followed along from the get-go and I thought it was super cool largely because some of the more like, standard names, so to speak, of the tournament scene here weren't involved, like myself. Like I don't think Bonfire was involved at all. Was Ember? I can't remember if Ember was
No,
part of
Ember
it.
wasn't either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a handful of the best players or the players who typically take up spots in top eight of tournaments weren't there, and that allowed for some serious like wildness,
Yeah.
to the point where like people were making runs that like even Evening Star, like we all know how good Evening Star is. He's power ranked in the region, or he has been. Um, but it's one of those things where he doesn't go to a ton of events, and B, he just doesn't have as much opportunity as some of the people who just go to every regional. And that's the
Right,
same
right,
with
right.
for people like Boiler Guy. It was just a really cool opportunity to see, like you said, people that we typically don't see, both playing in tournaments and doing well at them. It was really cool. And I'll also just say on a on a larger kind of zooming out note, it gave me a lot of hope just in general as a tournament because it's easy for us to be doom and gloom about losing G Town. We all know that he's stepping away here in pretty short order at this point, like within 6 months. But to see the passion and the drive of you and other people who are willing to put in the amount of work that is required to do something like that was really cool. Just really really cool. Even
Yeah.
if I wasn't a part of it, it gave me a lot of hope for where we are and where we will be, which is pretty sick.
Awesome. Hell yeah, yeah. It's and we haven't like, finalized everything, but I mean, I've been talking about like, we definitely want to do a season two. So it will be back, and we're trying to finalize some stuff and get that announced, but I can assure people it was successful enough that we want to bring it back. So yeah, super hyped. And Starly was amazing. So those are kind of the tournaments, to highlight. Of course, I wish we could go through everything, but I want to cover, some other stuff too. And if people, are interested, you can always go and look at all the data on our bracket page, which if you don't know, I always talk about it all the time. So go take a look and you can just scour through all the tournaments that have happened. It's been so interesting. And if we didn't talk about one of your favorite players, we apologize, of course, but it's impossible. Like New England has just too many good players. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I mean,
really hard to
if
talk about.
me
But
and
yeah.
Gent talked about everything we wanted to talk about in this podcast, every episode would be 4 hours long, and we would never be able to find time to do it because neither would like we can't just carve out 4 hours in our schedule to record.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
take some
Exactly.
have some mercy on it.
Have some
So
mercy.
you had like a little game you wanted to play, right?
Yes, yes. So, okay, when I was asking folks, what are some interesting topics or segments we could do for our podcast, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Fantastic Deli or Lottie or someone. I forget one of those folks who said that who like is always active in the Discord because that's where I went for this, and they had mentioned that we should do a segment where we talk about like local players that don't usually travel to outside their scenes, and if we were to just like pick them up and drop them at a different local in the region, who would we pick and what would happen? So I've just kind of called this segment like copy paste, which I think is a fun name. I'm sure there's other things we could talk about. I'm a cringe, I like to be cringe, that's kind of like my thing, so so that's kind of what the segment's called. But I'll start for sure. And my first person I want to highlight is from Maine, and that's Miranda. So Miranda's a Ganon player and a kind of a new transplant to the region, actually. So he was originally in Philly, I believe, and then or somewhere in Pennsylvania, and then moved to Florida for some time, and now is permanently, at least I don't know, maybe indefinitely. I'm not sure exactly how long, but he's gonna be in Maine for some time now, and he was just recently PR'd in Maine, third under only, of course, Eduport and Dr. Lamb, which are their best players. But Miranda, I would really like to see at Hog in Connecticut, actually, because the thing is that's really interesting is because Hog is like the Ganon Wonderland. Like if you're a Ganon fan and you want to see him go off, you go to Hall of Gaming or you watch Hall of Gaming weekly and you see Isaac just go off every
Yep.
single week. And despite all the players having so much experience, Isaac still is able to like really do really well. Like it's surprising because it's a mid-tier character, mid-low tier character, and he's still able to do so well. So I would love to see Miranda down there and see like, okay, what are the differences? Like, obviously Ganon isn't the most complicated character, but players have different play styles, and so it'd be really cool to see, would he just get owned because everybody has so much experience against Ganon, like even the lower level players, or would he, do better because he plays a little differently? So I think that would be like super, super interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I think I often forget that we have multiple Ganon players in New England because you always just think of Isaac, right? Like, is he's the one? A, he goes to a ton of stuff, and B, like he contends for like high placements at tournaments. So he's always the one I think of, and I totally agree that like just seeing different play styles, especially seeing how the Connecticut people who are so used to Isaac would play against Miranda, like it's
Exactly.
almost kind of you mentioned it in passing earlier, like how Bonfire goes to play against Eduporp and is like so taken aback because it's like this isn't golden, and like in New England we're very limited on certain characters, right? We only really have one Peach, we have like a couple Falcons, we have a couple Ganons, and Ganon is one of those where it'd be interesting to see how they stack up in in a different scene in a different universe.
Yeah.
My pick is a little less, or my first pick, I should say, is a little less, character driven and more just somebody who I think every time I play against him, I'm impressed. He's a New Hampshire native. So obviously I'm biased, but somebody that I just want to see go to more stuff. I don't even really necessarily have one local that I want to see him drop into. I just want to see him go to other stuff and
Okay.
keep getting good. And that's Andrew. I'm a big
Yes.
Andrew believer. I just think he's super good. I think I had a kind of a tough time deciding between some of my New Hampshire homies on this. I got to give a shout to Primer, who has been kind of inactive this season, but somebody I have a lot of faith in. Fantastic Deli, Andrew, Raff, like all the New Hampshireites, all the Foti regulars that I think are just improving at a really solid rate. And I would love to see Andrew get more experience against people who don't go to Foti every week. Because it's one of those things where like having a local scene and having local rivalries is huge for getting better, right? Having people that you
Absolutely.
can play every weekend, like it's a measuring stick of like, how am I going to do against Raph this week? How am I going to do against, Oz this week? Whoever it may be. But I think there's also a ton of value in, branching out and going somewhere else and, seeing, okay, I've spent all this time in the dojo that is New Hampshire. Now, how do I stack up against the mid level of Connecticut or the mid level of Massachusetts? So I guess I would probably say I want to see him at Hog as well, because I think Hog has a really rich, like mid level. Which I think is where Andrew would be, contending for the most part. Like, I don't think he's going to go to Hog and start beating Arty and I'm sorry. I
Maybe.
love you, Andrew, but that would be a lofty goal. But I think it's one of those things where I just think they have a really rich mid level, and similar to Miranda, I think it'd be really sick to see how he stacks up. So
Absolutely. Yeah, Andrew is interesting. I think it's funny that we mentioned him because I actually think that uh, not only in singles it would be interesting, but actually in teams. I would love to see him play teams outside of New Hampshire because he is a teams monster. Like that guy grinds teams. more than he grinds singles. He talks about how he loves the format more than he loves singles. And his static is obviously Raf, and they team all the time. I think it would be so sick to see them go and play teams somewhere else because I mean New England has always been teams has always been kind of a rich format in New England with different teams from different areas. It'd be cool to see him him and Raf of course as a duo go out. So I think Andrew's an awesome pick and he's one of my favorite people in the scene for sure.
He's awesome. All right, who you got
So
next?
yeah, it's my second pick. So I wish I want to do more people, but also I think we can always bring back this segment.
Yeah,
So if we don't mention your favorite player, this will come back at some point for sure if people enjoy it. So the second player for me is kind of also in the same vein of character wise, but not as much because it's a more common character. So this is going to be actually Funky Kong, who's the Marth player from Prodigy, Western Mass. Um, Also lives in Southern Mass, but goes between the places. And Funky Kong, if you don't know, is a Marth player with like a Falcon secondary that is getting good fast. Like if I had to warn anybody for a player that is coming up that people maybe haven't heard of, it would be Funky Kong. Like he just recently beat I think Future Shock at um at a one up, of course, obviously that's where they always play. And one up is like the main weekly that he'll go to in the summer. He lives, I think, goes to school at Amherst, so he's going to be there now. But yeah, he was going to one up all the time, and he ended up taking a set off of Future Shock, which is, let me tell you, to beat Alex with Marth is not easy because he's playing Nage all the time, he's playing Bank all the time, and to see Funky Kong clutch it out was awesome. I would love to see Funky Kong in terms of like where to put him, I would love to see him go to Fotai because Fotai now has like a lot of different Marth players. Like obviously you have David, of course, that's always going to be there. But Raf, of course, we've mentioned Raf a bunch. He's kind of in that mid-level area that I think Funky Kong would fit in great. And also now there's Mint, which is the new transplant from I forget where actually exactly where he's from, but he just moved here, and maybe he's from California. I'm not quite sure, but he just moved to New Hampshire and is also like another high tier Marth player. Of course, you got TK as well, so they got all these different Marth players. I would love to see Funky Kong play against some of these players that he's not usually playing. Number one, but two, also have a lot of experience, a lot against a lot of different Marth players because they're just playing Marth players every single week and a lot of different ones. So. Kong also really, really cool. Big student of the game. I like to say that when I play people or talk to people about that I know just like love Melee and practice Melee all the time. But big student, like I just always see getting coaching, asking questions to even some of the better Marth players in the region. So Funky Kong, definitely my second pick.
I like that. I like that pick. I totally agree that New Hampshire has this weird, like, New Hampshire has a lot of Fox right now and a lot of Marth right now. And I think it's good for the growth of both parties, so to speak. I think having a lot of Fox Marth happening at locals. I mean, Raf Andrew is the classic, right? I feel like they play it a million times every week or every month. Um, but I think there's just a lot of Marth Dittos going on, a lot of Fox Dittos, and a lot of Fox Marth going on in that lower end of New Hampshire right now. And I totally
Yeah.
agree that dropping Funky Kong in as somebody who, you know, being in Prodigy area, let's just call it what it is. If you go to Prodigy, it's probably the only local you go to because Prodigy is in the middle of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
Prodigy it's a tough place if you want to go to a bunch of stuff. Um, so I think it'd be really cool to drop Funky Kong. I swear. And my second pick, this is the one I'm actually most excited about because
Okay.
I'm you guys know by now I'm New Hampshire biased. It's what I want to talk about all the time, and there is an obvious New Hampshire local monster who
Okay.
essentially only goes to locals. And if you don't know how good his results are every season, you'll be blown away. It's like one of
Oh.
those. It's like a black pill where once you look at it, you're like, how is this dude not PR? And it's
Okay.
it's dulcet tones, man. It's dulcet
Dude,
tones.
yes,
He's
dude.
the local assassin of New England. This dude every month he gets golden wins. He usually gets a Greenstach win or two. This period he has a Calvar win at
Yes,
at a
dude.
Fotai, like where David was trying. David won the tournament, but he got knocked into losers early by dulcet tones. And this dude, like, there are so many people in New England, like people who've been around New England for a while, that just don't know who he is. because he only goes to New Hampshire locals. He like doesn't even go
Yeah.
to SSS anymore. It's basically just Foti. I'm gonna pull this up right now. I'm sorry for the unprofessionalness. I want to look
No,
at
go ahead.
Dulcetone's tournaments from this PR period. I have a feeling this is going to be hilarious. I haven't looked yet. Here we go.
I love this pick.
Dulcetone's his tournaments from this PR period. They're all Fotis. He hasn't been to a single tournament that isn't a Foti, and he didn't even go to Foti Big Mode. He went to 8 Fotis, and that's it.
Damn.
And in that time, he got a Calvar win. I think he has a golden win this period, but I'm not 1,000% sure on that. So I could be. I don't want to be too unprofessional and pour the data as we speak. But he amasses these super quality wins, and he's also like, functionally speaking, the New Hampshire gatekeeper. Of like he is
Yes.
kind of the filter line between the top level of New Hampshire. You know, David, Tori, me, Ember, Golden, and the
Abel as
lower
well.
level and Abel, yeah. And he's kind of the next, like he is very solidly right below those 6 and very solidly above everybody else. And that's no diss to everybody else, but people like Andrew and Raph and TK and all these people that we've been talking about, Dulcetones is the gatekeeper for them. He is
Yeah.
beatable, but he is just the local assassin, dude. Like
Yes, dude.
people don't understand how good he is.
No, I
Uh,
love this pick.
and again,
Dulcetone.
where am I going to send him? I don't know. Literally anywhere but Foti. Is that an okay answer? I'll send him to Balance Patch. I'll send him to Hog. I'll send him to fucking whatever main local. I don't care. I want to see him play against people other than New Hampshire at some point, and he will immediately start taking names, and everyone will know who he is. He just goes under the radar way too much. It's not okay.
Oh my gosh. This pick is awesome. Dude, him at NGP. Oh my God.
Could
That'd
you
be so sick.
imagine? Could he would
That
take
would be,
names, dude? He would be
dude, imagine him.
nasty.
I can't even imagine seeing him in the little camera. Like
Yeah,
on stream.
he would
Oh my gosh.
devour people in any
Dude,
other
yeah.
region. It's just like he goes to New Hampshire locals and loses to Calvar and Bonfire and me and is like, man, this game's fucking brutal. And it's like, well, because you only play against top 5 players. Like, oh, man, I would love to
Yeah,
see him anywhere else.
Tones, yeah. No, he's a great pick. I think he is a product of living in New Hampshire in this era. Like, I think if you live in New Hampshire and you're in the like Manchester area or not Nashua area, and you're going to the weekly, like Dulce Tones is kind of the logical extreme of what happens when that's all you do. Like you love Melee, but you don't like love it enough to go travel, you know? But like you're like you want to get better a little bit and you want to go hang out with people. He is like the logical extreme of what happens when you get that. And it's just wild because he's always like bracket isn't always indicative of like exactly where people are at, but it can give you like a range. I'm telling you, he is as a like a literally someone that always looks at bracket, he is almost always between the 30 and like 45 numbers of rankings, ratings in bracket, which makes like no sense because he only goes to weeklies and it's like, but because he's good enough to beat the PR players that also go to the weekly, he can just kind of get there by just doing that. And yeah, that's an awesome pick. I didn't even think about those tons. That's a great pull.
Yeah, again,
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm almost defeating the question of like where would I send him? Like I don't know. I just literally anywhere but Foti. Like that's what he needs. Clearly, he's been to 8 Fotis and nothing else. We on God, we got to get him somewhere.
We
But
do.
anyway,
We do. We do.
anyway, anyway, yeah. So that's the little copy paste. I kind of like that. I think we should keep doing that. I think that's a fun one.
Yeah.
And next we wanted to kind of do a check in as to something we talked about in the first podcast episode, which was our stock risers draft. We each drafted 5 players that we thought were gonna, get a big bump in their stock this PR period, and we wanted to do kind of a quick check in to see, how we're doing. Because me and Gen, if you can't tell, we're competitive. Both of us want to be right all the time, and
Yes.
and part of the game is seeing how our picks shake up, right? So you wanna start us off here again?
Yeah. 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 First of all, I just want to say, I can definitively say that I don't think I won this. Uh, I have some, there's some upside to my picks for sure. So I'm doing fantasy basketball this year, and there's if you've ever played fantasy, there's always like upside, and so I think some of my picks I had some upside for sure, and they might still, but I think overall Nick probably won the draft. We'll get to it, but so my first pick was Brady Bunch fan 420, who was my roommate at the time. One of my best friend probably in the scene, plays ice climbers, and he has gone to two tournaments. So so that's an unfortunate first pick. But however, though, there is some upside to this player. So he just moved actually literally 2 days ago to Rhode Island, and uh, I am almost certain that he wants to like get PR'd in Rhode Island and be like really high because he thinks it'd be really funny to just like move there and just own. So I think he's gonna be grinding for that. So
Nice.
perhaps in the next 6 weeks he goes to a GGRI or two and just owns. We shall see.
Yeah,
But yeah, so
or maybe
far
even next period, right? Like
next
your
period,
pick
yeah.
doesn't expire after 6 months. You can have that stock for as long as you want. And
Okay, okay,
I
okay.
need that too because my first pick was Primer, who I think has gone to zero tournaments since I picked him. That dude disappeared off the face of the planet. I love him to
Yeah.
pieces. I know he'll be back. I know he'll keep taking names, but that dude, he probably hasn't been to zero tournaments. I'm not going to pull up the data. I'm too lazy. But similar to Brady Bunch fan, he has been a little MIA. So not making the start of our picks, both of our first overall picks. Uh, not maybe not the best, but
Yeah,
that you get to hold the stock for as long as you want. Right? And when
I
both of
like
these
that.
players are on the PR in a couple of years, we're both just going to feel like geniuses.
This
Um,
is so true.
our second
Exactly.
picks, though, I think both hit pretty hard. You wanna go ahead with yours?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So for me, Uh, I would say Lottie. I'm really happy with what Lottie's done this season. So Lottie, I picked her, because if y'all remember, I talked about how she'd gone to like game five with so many strong players, but just couldn't close it. And this season, she's finally starting to close these sets. So she's been able to close sets against she this season. She finally got her first win against Brub, 3-2. Finally being able to close it. I believe she beat Spades, also 3-2, closed that. And then just at Collision, she beat, oh my gosh, I am blanking. Who was the Falco that was really good friends with Squid? Squid.
Yeah,
She beat Squid game five at Collision. Now, to be fair, this is Squid's Yoshi now. He's switched to Yoshi since.
still.
But like that's Squid's an amazing player who switched fully to a new character, and like she beat him like 3-2, and it was so sick to see that. And so this like Lottie's just been always a grinder, but I think this season she's really starting to close sets, and I do think she probably will be PR'd in Connecticut, like probably lower end, but or maybe she's gonna be slightly higher. Not quite sure. I think she was HM last year, so
Yeah,
or last season, so we'll see. But I'm just so happy with her results. So well done to Lottie. If you're
yeah.
watching this, you've done great.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think that Lottie, it's funny because they both play Falcon, but I always think of Lottie and Oz, I think are maybe on the two clearest upward trajectories of anybody in New England. In terms of like, you look at where they were
I like
6 months ago, you look at where they are now, how their sets have been going with, people below them and people above them. I think those two, again, it's funny they both play Falcon, but I think that those two probably have like some of the most clear upward trajectories to where like if you told me that in 2 years both of them are top 15 in New England, I'd be like, yeah, like I 100% believe that. So I
yeah.
think Lottie, great pick on your part during the draft. I was definitely jealous of that one. My second pick in the draft, though, was a little unconventional. You think of a stock risers draft, and you think of these, lower level PR, like maybe low state PR players like Lottie or like, somebody like that. I went a little unconventional and picked somebody who's already on the PR
I'm
from
so
my
upset that you were so right, Nick. I'm
yeah,
so
yeah,
upset.
yeah. You can go back and watch the first episode. When I picked Greenstach, I said he's already nasty, but I think this PR period is where he breaks through and gets to another level. And that might be the most right I've been about anything. Like that it was a great pick. I'm stoked. I've been a Devin believer for years. I love him to pieces. He's going to be interviewed later in this pod, so you'll get your fill of Devin and his ramblings. But there's not really a lot I can even say. His run at Collision, I would talk about it, but I want to let him do it in his interview. Like I don't want to diminish anything he has to say about that run, but watching it from an outside perspective, I mean, the things he's doing are super, super impressive. He beats me all the time. He beats, he has Calvar wins, he has Bonfire wins, he has Ember wins. He just does it against everybody in region, basically. Um, and I'm endlessly impressed by him. I think he is, close to the future of New England. I think, future top five is not a far reach for him at this point. Like he's in those discussions at this point, which I think is pretty incredible. So his stock
Yeah.
has definitely risen and will continue to, in my opinion. If we did this draft again, I'd probably take him again.
Yeah, that's the wild part because, like, you'd think when you're doing drafts of whether it's fantasy or if it's something like this where you're looking for upside, picking a player that's already really good is tough, if you're looking for upside because the improvement is the scale of improvement is slower once you're at that level.
Yep.
But somehow you picked the best player in this, like, draft in the picks that we had,
His
and
trajectory is still way
still
up.
the best.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, but that's an amazing pick. Yeah, Devin's amazing, and yeah, we'll get to him when he has his interview. But just a killer player, and just recently beat. So I know we were mentioning earlier. I just remembered because you said that I think there's very few players that have double eliminated David to win a tournament. Now it wasn't a regional, but it was like a monthly bit bar,
Yep.
which was smaller. But Devin double eliminated David
Yep.
to win bit bar, and David doesn't lose twice to people like at the same tournament. So it's just so awesome to see him. He's like my partner in crime in Massachusetts. I love to go to tournaments with him and just talk to him about Melee and work together and improve. So I think it's just so sick to see him. Um, my third pick was the Fox player from Maine, Shive. Now, Shive, I would say if I had to like grade this pick, I'd probably give Shive like a B minus, probably. Like there wasn't too much movement upwards, but not movement downwards. Like he's been very consistent.
Yep.
And up in Maine, he actually is doing better than he's like not ever been doing, but in the last month, he's been able to beat Throne Butt, which is one of their PR players in Maine, and he won a weekly. He won one of the Buffalo Wild Wednesdays as well. So it's just really cool to see uh, him do better. One of my favorite Fox players to watch that's like at that level, and he's a grinder too. I think he's starting now. I think the Arcadian just happened up in Maine. We were talking a little bit, and he was saying that he wants to grind more melee, and I think he is. So if this is if this kind of stock continues past these 6 months, I'm sure he'll do even better. But yeah, just a great player. I would watch out if you're a Mainer, if you're going up to a B-dubs and you're from like New Hampshire or Northern Mass, watch out for Shive. Really great Fox player.
Yeah. I feel in I totally agree on everything you said about Shive. And I think, the stock risers draft, it's one of those things that you feel like it might be like bad if your player doesn't immediately start making upsets or whatever, but just that steady upward trajectory is really all you're looking for. And even if Shive's results aren't necessarily way better than they were 6 months ago, that doesn't mean that your stock isn't rising, right? It's not like an instant like you
Yeah,
got, the blessing from Ghent and now you're nasty, right? And I feel the same about my third pick, which was Jeep God, who I think has maintained a pretty steady level of improvement. He had a super close set with Load Spiller. I think where was that? I forget what tournament it was, but maybe it was what's the
maybe
Worcester
an
Weekly
Austin
called?
All-Stars.
I think it was either All Snow Stars or maybe like the big free play that happened right before that tournament series ended, or when
Oh,
22K
okay,
left.
yeah.
I think it might have been at that, but he had a really close like game 3 or game 5 set there. He has a win on Lottie at Alton All Stars 5, which is a fantastic win. So I think it's one of those things that he's continuing just this kind of steady trajectory of getting a few solid wins and still maintaining the ability to beat people below you, getting top 8 at new game pluses, like plural, which is great. So, maybe not like a meteoric rise going on, but just a more solid, steady improvement, like you said with Shive. I think that's kind of true of honestly most of our remaining picks. Uh,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
my
yeah. I would
fourth
I would
pick,
say
my fourth pick was Raph, who in a similar boat, as far as New Hampshire goes, has just been kind of steadily upward, not making too many crazy upsets or anything, which is really hard to do in New Hampshire, especially. But just maintaining that steady improvement.
yeah, exactly. I feel the same way about Casey Grob. I think that Casey is one of my favorite uh, players to think about, like theorize, where he could get to. And it's really cool to see him start to branch out, which like similar to my Shive pick, I'd probably give Casey Grubb like a B minus or a B pick, like just solid, steady, stayed, kind of where he's at, but he's been able to branch out and go to, outside of the Prodigy land that he's always at. And he was able to go to Star League, which even though he didn't win a set at Star League, it's a super tough tournament to do well at. He was still able to get a lot of experience. Like he played a lot of players he's never going to be able to play usually at Prodigy. So it's really cool to see that. And he's also just like trying new things. I know he was trying to work on a secondary Fox for a little bit, and he is always getting coaching. Like I always see him getting coaching in the Prodigy Discord from some players out there that want to help. And 22K, I think, always talks about KZ Grob as well. So this player, I think, is just solid, steady. And this is kind of how it goes. Like if you want to become a better player, and move up, like we both know kind of what that looks like. It doesn't, you're not going to have like an immediate boom, right? Like it's a lot of just kind of, okay, I'm working on my stuff, I'm steadily improving, and then there comes a moment like where something happens, you go to a tournament, you're feeling really confident, and you're just able to finally put the pieces together. So that's how I feel about KZ Grop,
Yeah.
similarly.
Yeah. I think at every level it's two steps forward, one step back a lot of the time, right?
Yes.
And those
Yeah.
steps back, as much as they may hurt, they're good for you in the long run. They always are.
Yeah.
That said, oh here, my cat growing up. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Maybe if I do this. Work? There we go. Sorry about that. My last pick of the draft was Gambit, who has actually been really putting up some good results this period.
Yes.
He has, just in terms of like, caliber wins, I think he has a Saucy Main win or two. He has Ant wins. He has Matt.Zeb wins. He has a Future Shock win. He's been putting together some really, really good results.
Yes.
And he was one of those people that I always kind of felt was good, but didn't travel a ton to weeklies outside of like his regular weekly, and just wasn't like kind of where you were saying with Lottie was like showing good stuff, but not really closing a lot of these sets against
Yeah.
people that would be considered better than him. And this season he's been doing it. He's been closing. He's been putting up way better performances at the weeklies he goes to. I want to see him go to more regionals, honestly, and get more experience
Yes.
against the best of the best, because I think he's at that point where now you really need that measuring stick of like, where how do you really stack up against that caliber of play? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think that can sometimes help you break through the most.
Yeah, Gambit's super cool. Super awesome to see his Yoshi be go from like a meme, just fun pick, like to he literally just mains Yoshi now.
Yep.
Like I asked him at Collision, I was like, "So do you consider yourself like still a Fox main with like a Yoshi on the side?" Or he was like, "No, I'm Yoshi main, a little bit of Fox." And I think him switching to Yoshi was probably somehow you went from a worse character. You went from I think we see this a lot actually, where somebody that's playing really good, like Junebug, plays Sheik and then switched to Donkey Kong. Same thing with Gambit. Like he went from Fox and went down like basically half the tier list and picked Yoshi, and is literally doing the best he's ever done
Yeah.
ever. Like with Yoshi, somehow the best decision he's ever made is going to a worse character, and I think that that's probably just because the theme that I think we tend to see with Melee is that any character can do it. Every character like has tools to do really well, and Melee, the game gives you the ability to do that. But also, you have to think more. Like obviously with Fox, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes you get a bunch of freebies. You know
You
what I
think
mean? But with
so?
Yoshi, yeah, with Yoshi, you have to think a little bit. Like, okay, I need to approach, but like, how do I approach? I have to go to the platform. Oh my gosh, like, what if I'm getting comboed? Okay, I have to think about this angle of attack and this kind of stuff. And I think he's putting up a resume that could be Massachusetts PR level. Like, I think it's really cool to see and just proof that somehow in New England, players just have the special ability to play a worse character and just do amazing.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean, it's
understand.
relatable. I did the same thing. It was a long time ago. Like I've been playing Game and Watch for a long time, but I did the same thing, switching from Mark to Game and Watch, and saw a similar thing happen. So it's his journey is close to my own. Very relatable.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
All right, take us home, buddy.
So yeah, absolutely. So my last pick was Funny Haha Man. And unfortunately he's only gone to one tournament this season,
One.
but I'm holding out hope. I'm holding out hope for my boy because when I tell you that, like, if I could, I'm trying to think of like the best example. It's like when you have that one player, like your one friend that's just like really good at basketball, but just refuses to play varsity or like at a team or go to a gym and play with teams. Like you just know he's so nasty, and he can like he'll 1v1 like anybody and just own them at basketball, but like he just doesn't want to go like really grind it. Funny how man is that person. Like he goes unranked and just like beats like really strong players, like top players. I've just like that I never beat before. He just owns. Like I remember we had a session. He was like he like beat me for most of the session, and I was like, dude, please go to a tournament. Like I just want to see you go to a tournament. And he was like, yeah, it's just tough. Like I'm just so busy, you know. And I just don't understand. Like this player is just so good. Trust me when I say that my stocks would be so up right now if he just went to tournaments. But so I'm holding out hope that he will come around and go to at least a couple more NGPs. Just come on, like please, you know. So yeah, Funny How Man still really fun to watch, and he's always posting really cool clips in the Discord. We'll see what happens. But yeah, those were kind of our picks. This was a really fun game. Like I think it's really cool to see kind of what was going to happen, and um, I think we got a chance to look into players we never really think about usually, and it's just been really cool.
It's also just cool to have people to root for in your own, selfish, self-interested way of like,
Yeah,
when I
exactly.
saw, every time I saw Gambit go on a sick run, I was like you're hooking me up. You're bumping my stock. I appreciate that,
Yeah,
It's good to, it's good to have that extra little bit of reason to be hyped for somebody, which is
yeah,
cool. So that kind of covers most of the big stuff we wanted to do with this pod. Obviously, we have the interviews coming that'll be with Gent and Greenstach, and then Gent and Arty, respectively. But the last thing we kind of wanted to do here was just like a brief look forward, because we have about 6 weeks left in the period. So what's left for us, Gent? What do we got left in this
yeah, yeah,
last
yeah.
6 weeks?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. So I'm gonna go from, so I want to talk about what's left in the period, but also a brief glimpse into kind of what's coming up later as well. So first of all, we have Mass Madness 50, 53, yeah, 53. That is coming up in, I think, mid-September, so like 2 weeks from today. But before that, we have Big Fotai, which is this weekend actually. And Big Four Tie is going to be interesting because that's the next EduPorp tournament. I just like to think about these tournaments as like, is this like an EduPorp tournament? Is this a Nariel tournament? Because that's like the big name that nobody really sees, you know? So
Yeah,
this is the next EduPorp tournament. He's going to that. I think Dr. Lame is also going, who just recently beat Calvar at Austin All Stars 5. So it's really just another main tournament. And we'll see kind of what happens with the mainers there. Um, I could totally see EduPorp just completely winning again. We'll see. I'm curious to see, if Tori will have made any adjustments. Perhaps we'll see. So that's Big Fotai next week, and the week after is Prodigy Classic. So that's happening in obviously in the Prodigy venue. I know you like to go to that tournament. Artie will go to that tournament. I might try and hit that up too. We'll see. SSS is also that weekend, so it might a little be tough for some New Hampshire players to go there, but uh, still big nonetheless. And then of course, like I said, Mass Madness 53, which is probably the last big tournament of the season. And then of course there's I want to mention the Vermont tournament, which is through the woods. And I'm going to this. Greenstach is going. I think some of the mainers are considering going. Calvar is going. So this is going to be probably the biggest Vermont, the biggest tournament that most of the New England PR is going to go to in Vermont. And it's kind of us. We owe VeggieTales because he came all the way down here for Star League, so we kind of owe him uh, to go up there and play him at in his house. You know what I mean?
that is
And see
cool.
how we can do there.
That is cool. There's
Yeah.
going to be a stack tournament in Vermont. I can't remember
Yes.
the last time. It's been a long, long time.
Exactly, yeah. And so that's September. The season, okay, now that I'm remembering, actually, this does fit within the season. So the season technically ends on October 16th. So technically, the last big tournament, or no, September or October 18th, my bad. There is still two tournaments that fit into that, and that's Mass Madness, which is on the last day of the season. That's going to be Mass Madness uh, 54. And also, we're going to have the biggest tournament probably, which within that, and I think the one that's like really going to be hyped is Divine Intervention, which is the week before that Mass Madness. And Divine Intervention on October 11th. This tournament has, I think, an immediately capped in like within a day or two, and it's being run by Isaac. and Able and G Town, and they're teaming up to run this great tournament in a church down in Connecticut, and it's gonna be really really cool. I think it's the first big like monthly that's not Gigahog in Connecticut,
Yep.
at least in a while. So I'm going to that, and a lot of other people are going to that. I don't know. Are you going to Divine Intervention?
Yeah, I think I am. I haven't fully
Okay.
committed, but I have a spot saved for me, and I think I'm gonna make it.
Okay, clutch, clutch. Yeah. So I think that that'll be a really stacked tournament. One of those that like even though it's capped at like 60 people, 64 people, it's gonna be like the density of the PR players is gonna be huge. So
Yep. It's
that
kind
those
of
are kind of what we're looking at.
yeah, and we kind of used this phrase in one of our other pods of like this kind of like last chance qualifier of like, all right, there's one more big tournament in the period, so there's gonna be people that are vying. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody on that tournament alone goes from 11th on the PR to 8th on the PR, or from 8th to 6th or something like that. Like
Yeah,
that big
absolutely.
tournament at the very end of the period goes a long way.
It does go a long way. And then the last tournament I'll mention, and this is for next season, but I think we kind of owe it to these COs to mention because it's going to be one of the biggest tournaments of the probably the biggest tournament of the year for New England, and that's Vacation Land, which is tentatively is the like wavelength replacement for the year. Wavelength is still going to happen next year. They announced that on their Twitter, but like this is kind of the same spot and it's being run by the same TOs. So this is kind of a smaller version of Wavelength up in Portland, Maine, which is I don't know the last time there's been a huge tournament up in Maine. This might be the biggest tournament ever that's being planned for me. I think J-Mook is planned to go. Obviously, a lot of the New England PR is going. I think they're going to really try and gas up the numbers and get as many strong top players from outside the region, top 100 players. Vacation Land's going to be super super fun. I'm hyped. I'm going to that, and you got to go support a main tournament. Like they're doing it up there, and I think it'll be so sick. So
Yeah.
that's like what to look for in
Yeah,
November.
I think it's a cool thing to look forward to. It's like a time of things in weird places. Like we have a monthly in Connecticut that isn't at Hog. We have a stack tournament in Vermont. We have
Yeah,
a
dude.
like mini like one of the biggest regionals of the year for New England taking place in Maine. Like just things
Yeah,
going on in
yeah.
places they don't normally go on. So it's going to be an
It's
exciting
odd.
few months.
Yeah.
It's going to be a
But
really
that's
exciting few
everything.
months. Yeah.
Those are the tournaments that are happening.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for the season kind of debrief and looking forward part of this pod. Thank you so much for watching, listening, joining us. And from here, this isn't the end of the pod. Obviously, we're going to have an interview with Greenstach and an interview with Arty here coming up shortly. There's going to be a cut because I'm gonna peace out and Gent's going to take over for the interview portions. So thank you so much for watching and listening. And interview with Greenstach and Arty coming right up, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, y'all.
Okay, what is up, everybody? If you just are joining us, this is the interview portion of episode 3 of the New England Melee podcast. Uh, I definitely recommend checking out the earlier segments. We had a great time, Nick and I. But now we're going to get into a couple interviews. And our first interview of today is actually going to be with Greenstach. So welcome, Greenstach.
For having me. Hi.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Greenstach, or I'm just gonna call him Devin because that's easier. That's my boy. So Nick and I talk about Devin all the time. I feel like every single episode we just like love talking about you. It's so fun to talk about you. Unfortunately, Nick couldn't make it for this portion, but he sends his regards. And yeah, so the big thing I wanted to talk to Greenstach about today is, of course, the collision run because collision just happened 2 weekends ago, not this past weekend, the weekend before, and it was a big moment for New England. I think it was our best major to date. We had a number of players that made it into top 64, and even some that made it to right outside the top 32, and even outside of those, we had like a number of players outside of Collision or outside of Top 64 that made cool runs. Like we talked about Lottie earlier in the podcast. So it was really cool to see New England, but I think the star of the show had to be Greenstach. Devin. Devin did, I believe you got 49th, I think was your final, right? Or,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 49th at Collision, and I was there live with a bunch of other New England players, and we got to see the run live. But definitely the most, I think, interesting run and the most spectacular run, I have to say. So we wanted to bring him onto the show and ask him, how Collision went and just kind of go through the motions and everything. So first of all, talk to me about like what were you doing before going to Collision? Because I know you've gone to majors before. Like I know you went to Gommel earlier in the year, and I believe you've gone to Genesis maybe. Yeah, so you've gone to other majors, but this one was, I would say it's close to home for New England because it's obviously closer, but also there was a bunch of New England players that are already going there, and it's also in the summer, like deep into the summer, which is nice because you're already kind of in shape. But I'm kind of curious if you had, were you going into the tournament with any different kind of preparation plans, or did you like your bracket? Talk to me about that.
I think the past month as a whole for me, August was just my best month in my career to date because I had not just Collision, but before Collision was Supernova a couple weeks before that. And I got 65th at Supernova, which before Collision was my best performance at a major. So I also had my fourth place run at Austin All Stars 2 weeks before that. And then after Collision, I also won the latest pit bar, which is the tournament I'm running. But in short, I think I've just been playing really well this month, and hopefully I can keep it going for September and beyond. But as far as any specific preparation I had, um, I don't think there was anything specific I was doing other than my normal routine before I went to New Jersey for Collision. We had Mass Madness in the weekends in between Supernova and Collision. I kind of thought of that as like my Collision pre-local, if you will. I wasn't at the official one because I just couldn't get there in time because I worked Thursday. So um, it was not until I was at Collision and at the venue playing friendlies where I was getting in the zone about my bracket. Um, I saw that my seed was to finish 65th, but I was like the 60, no, no, 93, like the 93rd seed, I think. So it's like you're barely supposed to get 65th. So that means it's going to be harder for me to even get to 65th in theory. And if I'm going to get top 64, which was the goal, then I'm going to have to like probably get some good wins. And sure enough, I did. So I guess we can get into more specifics, but in general, I just got in the zone and managed to find my groove.
Right. No, yeah, I think it's really cool to see you get in the zone because I feel like you're always so jolly about your games and what you're going to play in your matches. Obviously we're at a lot of tournaments together and so I kind of get to see you, just be ready to for anything, like no matter what. And so I think that actually it can really help at a major, because anything can happen. In fact, I remember talking to Actually, I don't remember who it was exactly, but somebody was telling me that you had like predicted that you could play Daniel, and which was interesting because you actually weren't seeded to play, and so you had kind of already seen that ahead and thought about it. And I think that the whole what I'm saying about like you're prepared for anything, you're always ready for your matches. I think that goes a long way to major because you don't know what can happen. Like you already thinking about, okay, this is probably something that can happen. So I'm curious, is that just natural for you where you're, you know, always ready to play no matter who's in front of you? Or do you like really go deep into trying to think about how to beat this X person? Or is it just like a mix of different things?
Yeah, about my bracket path. I mean, I do observe what the bracket looks like as soon as they're published, but they do get changed like before everyone's over there at the venue and everything because of bracket changes and stuff. I mean, I remember the first draft of the bracket had me seated to play Lottie, and I was like, immediately bracket requests changes that. I mean, and the way that G Town Tom puts it, I think is the best way to describe it. It's like I could play Lottie or any other New England player for like $5, at a local. But you want to, if you're traveling out of region, you're paying a lot more money to get your money's worth. You want to play people that are outside of your region. So, yeah, I would, first of all, yeah, I'm going to try to avoid in region matches if possible. But as soon as the bracket was final, I saw my path and found that, yeah, Daniel was in my path. Um, I think actually by the seating because it was supposed to be that I would lose to Rishi in winners and then get to Daniel in top 64 qualifier because he was also projected to defeat Arn. And uh, it was also possible that I was going to face Arn, but to both of our credits, we both did our part in dodging each other because I beat Rishi and he beat Daniel, so we still wound up on other sides of the bracket, so we were able to get different players.
Right.
So, yeah, but the point is, yeah, I did think that Daniel was a possibility, and just in case it was, I actually did get games with Gambit. I did like a best of 5 play match with him, but I also just like spoke with him about the matchup and stuff like that. So I think my eventual win versus Daniel, I do have to give a lot of credit to Gambit for helping me out with that.
Great.
And words he betrayed the Yoshi board.
So
I
true.
really am happy about that. Or maybe wasn't happy about that.
Okay.
But in-region loyalty is a real thing.
It is.
Certainly, I should also say that Gambit himself has been getting nasty with his Yoshi. Like, it would not surprise me if he ends up beating me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Last time we played, we actually went to Game 5. And he already has wins over Sasime with his Yoshi. So that's not at all like a outrageous thing for me to say that, yeah, Gambit can beat me. In fact, he actually does have wins on me with his Fox. So it's like,
Yeah,
he's certainly one of the players that I see is up and coming right now. But it's cool because Gwex doesn't go to a lot of stuff these days, so we kind of do need a Yoshi to fill the void in his absence.
True. Yeah, we were talking about Gambit a little bit in the podcast. For those of you that have been watching, yeah, he's great, and it's awesome that he was able to help you. So, yeah, now that we're kind of getting into the thick of the bracket, I definitely want to talk about these wins. So, walk me through your bracket path, if you can remember. So, before you played Rishi, for example.
Okay, so I think I was projected to play a Peach, but I think they DQ'd. So I faced a Falco instead. I cannot remember their tag. I wish I did. But that's one thing I realized. Like, you meet so many people, you play so many people, it's hard to remember every single time.
Yeah.
But I did manage to win that 3-0, and then that was right into Rishi. Because, like, I had a bye, right?
That's right.
First round. So then round 2 was my first set with Falco, and then the set with Rishi after that was for getting out of the pool winner side. If I had lost my Rishi set, then I think I was going to face, and I don't know if it would have gone this way because I didn't look at the losers bracket, but it was projected to be this Fox that goes by, I think, Rascal.
Oh yeah, Rascal. Yep.
So I was going to say, you might know him, I don't.
Yeah.
And I guess I told him because I didn't get to play him. So I guess I had other plans.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I faced Rishi. I won 3-1, and I got out of round 1 pools on the other side.
Yeah, so Rishi, it's so interesting how you talk about it so calmly because I mean it's such a huge win. And I remember when it happened, like I was sitting at a setup because I think I had already I think I'd been eliminated at this point, and so I was sitting at a setup just kind of chilling, and then I get like a text on or I was looking at the Discord and I see Greenstach beat Rishi, and I'm like, yo, so I like get up and I just start running back to the pool and I see you. And in my head, I'm like, okay, if I want to find Devin, he's probably going to be like yelling and chirping about how he beat Rishi. But you're just like walking back to the pool. And I'm like, that's wild. Like, and then I came up to you and I like obviously patted you on your back and everything. I was like, damn, that's an awesome win. So like with Rishi, I know I asked you, I think at Collision about it, and you had talked about how, obviously you have a lot of Marth practice, but I think it's just it's so interesting because, obviously the Marths in New England play differently from outside of the region. And so I'm curious, like, did you just kind of realize that Rishi was behind on some of the mix-ups or the game plans compared to like David, for example, Calvar, or was it just that you were able to adapt really quickly? Like, what was it about Rishi that caught you, I suppose, off guard in the sense that like, okay, this is a strong player, but I can definitely win?
I think you kind of explained it pretty well. I don't know what's the best way to put it, but it did seem like to me that because of how often I play Calvar, Regex, Bank, Arn, that there's a lot of stuff that I've seen in the matchup, and there just wasn't anything particular about Rishi's game plan that I was like, oh wow, that's new or something that I've seen before. So I just thought that surprisingly it seemed doable to me. I think the fact that I was able to win the first game, I went to FOD. Like I said, I just agreed to Battlefield. I decided to just, I don't know, strike and go to FOD just to see if maybe that might throw him off a little bit from the usual routine. And I guess it worked because I won the first game. I can't remember if it was like last stock or multi stock. I have a feeling it was probably the last stock or two stocks left. But I remember the second game, he kind of goes Battlefield. I won the second game with last stock, and I got like enough smash to take that, and we were like both close to dying. Then the third game, Battlefield again. For once, I was actually trailing, and I did take it to last stock, and maybe this is a universe where I like complete the comeback and win 3-0, but it does take game three. And then I just didn't panic. I went to Dreamland game four, and I was able to get a lead again and carried it nearly to the end, but I was pretty close to choking it actually because I had him at high percent. And you know, Dreamland's a big stage, so everyone lives forever. So I kept getting him off stage, like after 100%. And while I sometimes like to go for those sneaky back airs to finish them off, like I was at my last stock, so I didn't want to risk it. So I was just like hoping to get like a right guess on those guards, but he kept making it back. So I didn't kill him until I finally got a down air, like a trade in the air, and he was at like 160. So
Wow.
it was close to being like I had a feeling that if he won the fourth game, then the momentum's back on his side, and he probably takes game five. So it was like one of those sets where it's like if you're gonna complete the essay, you have to win it this game. So that game four almost felt like it was game five to me.
Right.
If I was gonna win, it would have had to be that game. Um, so I think that sums it up gameplay wise. I'm afraid it's lost media at this point because they didn't do the slippy replays until round two pools after. So I can only go by memory.
Was it not on stream?
Nope.
Wow. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's lost media.
Dang.
Those are the things I remember about it.
Okay.
And oh yeah, I'm glad I didn't forget this. So basically, respectfully, I knew how good of a player Rishi was coming into it because I like looked him up in his past rankings, but I guess it just didn't fully sink into me how much of a legacy player he is and everything. And people were telling me about it, but I just we've talked about the mango effect before, if you
Yes.
recall.
Yes.
I was not feeling the mango effect versus Rishi.
That's what I was gonna ask you because, dude. Okay, like right on Wednesday, right before Collision, he won the stock exchange in NYC over Aklo. Like,
Wait, you got first place at that?
I'm almost certain he got first place, or maybe he got second place. But
Okay.
in winners, I remember he like beat Aklo in winners, and it was like this huge thing because he beat his Fox and his Link, I think, and then in grands, I think maybe Aklo did come back and win, but still, like it was. I think Rishi was because I see what you're saying. Like Rishi isn't like as perhaps seen these days, but like he had just done really well at Stock Exchange. So for you to just kind of come up and be like, okay, I'm just gonna win this. I mean that it is very impressive. And so yeah, like you were saying, I really want to ask you about this like mango effect that we've talked about, where you play a better player, and Mango for example is the main example of this really strong player that when you sit down to them, you sometimes nerf yourself because you're thinking too much about it. But like, it seems like that didn't happen for you, and so I'm kind of curious if you've ever felt that experience before, where you play a really good player and you're not feeling it, and then you win, or is this the first time you've ever felt it versus Rishi?
Um, I think if I've had the mango effect while playing someone, that usually ends up with me not winning. So actually, with Stock Exchange, I did watch Rishi play Regex, and unfortunately, our guy got creamed. Because I think it was a 3-0. I don't remember any of the games being particularly close. One of them might have gone to last stock, but he did seem overmatched, unfortunately. But I didn't check the rest of the bracket after that. because also like that match was on stream, so I just happened to get to see it, and then I didn't care enough to see how the rest of the bracket went
Yeah.
after Reynolds got eliminated. He still got like ninth, or he still did well in the tournament. Like he's the beast of Boston, so it was a requirement for him to at least make it to the beast bracket, and he did. So.
Yeah.
But that did show me that, yeah, Rishi's a great player, and if I'm going to win, it's going to be really hard. But again, I just, for once, being out of the loop of something pays off because, like we said, I wasn't feeling the mango effect. I don't know if we've explained yet what it is for those that aren't familiar with it, but it's just like, again, if, say you're playing Mango and everyone knows who Mango is, you can't play at your best because in your mind you're thinking, wow, like it's them, like I'm playing this famous person, and that just sort of clouds your head, and you're not able to like play on top of your game. And more than likely, it won't change the outcome of the match if you're just already if they're just that much better than you anyway. But it can hurt you if you're really not that far off from their current skill. And I think people might still feel the mango effect on like the best of our region, like if people are playing Calvo for the first time or something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if people felt that against me for some reason. Ranked on England's PR, but it's a real thing. So yeah, I think that's the best way to sum it up with Rishi is just somehow I wasn't feeling the mango effect. It seemed like a Marth that was doable for me, and then I won.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so sick. It's so sick, and obviously that was only the start of the rest of your bracket, but it was a huge start. And you and I remember, like we mentioned, like Aaron also made the upset in his pool, and so it was really cool to see. This just New England was showing up, like was beginning to show up and really make a number on this bracket. And then we get into obviously round two, and in winners, I don't recall exactly right now who you had to play in winners.
It was Cap.
Cam, that's who it was. That's right. So we played. I remember you came up to me and you asked me for games, and we were warming up a little bit. I don't know if you remember, but I wanted you to win so bad that I picked Red Fox on purpose so that I could like prepare you to play against Kem because he plays Red Fox. I don't know if you noticed that, but
I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that I was playing Cam. It's all Fox to me.
No, fair enough. That's totally fair. That's the best way to do it. But yeah, anyway, so we were practicing and I could just tell like you were playing hot, you were playing good, and I was like, okay, I want to see if you can do some damage, on Chem. And Chem is really good. Like, not only is he a really good player, obviously he's high in the top 100. He's also really good against Luigi because he has a lot of experience. And I remember watching a couple of his sets against Rat Monster, and he would just kind of own sometimes. And so I don't know if obviously it's a hard matchup, but I don't know if you had ever played a top 100 player in that kind of pressure situation where you were put up not on stage but close to the stage. Like, what was that feeling like? And I mean, what were you just thinking when you were going against Kem?
Yeah, that was all new to me. So I think by that point, because like in round one pools, no one's really watching. Like it took a while for people to realize that I won versus Rishi. Like I think one of the first people to figure it out was Abel because he was just in the pool next to me. And I remember like turning around, and first I see Fantastic Deli and Awkward like, saying, yeah, good job, because they saw that I won. And then I turn around, like the other side, and there's Abel saying, is that bracket? And I go, yeah. And then like his jaw is like, open wide because he just couldn't believe it. I'm obviously happy, but like, it took a while for people to figure that out. But yeah, with Cam, for one, as you know, I mean, Fox can sometimes give me trouble. They just move so fast. It's like I can't think, and I can get a bit overwhelmed by the speed and the tempo of the matchup. But yeah, the idea of like being on stream and having that feel a bit more, I guess, premium or prestige of a situation or of a set. Yeah, I suppose that might have affected my play a little bit, but also throughout that day, which I haven't mentioned yet, I could not mash to recover at all. Like it was not good. I was actually telling Saucy Main that I just could. The problem was my hands were like they were sticky. So the way that I mash to recover now, I like quickly vibrate my arm horizontally. So if they're sticky, then it doesn't like slide across the button
Mm.
smoothly. It just kind of feels stuck on one button. and so the height was just not impressive. So I was actually recovering like crap like throughout my entire run, but I was just able to, I suppose, minimize it because I wasn't sent off stage that often. So therefore, that what I thought was like going to be a fatal weakness was not exposed as much as I thought it would be. I can't remember like getting cheese by Chem by that much. I think he just kept beating me on stage with neutral, and in which case that's something I can't blame my recovery on. But the point is, it did make me think that I wasn't going to do well because I'm like, if I can't recover, then I'm not going to be playing as good, or rather, I can't use all of my strengths, and it's going to be a problem.
Right.
But everything else in my game felt fine. But yeah, I just thought, yeah, because I was new to the idea of playing. That might be the first time ever at a major where I was on a stream for a set. So just getting used to that is going to take experience and time, and I'm not going to say that's like why I lost to Ken. He's a top 100 player. So I feel like if I were playing at my best, I probably could take a game on one of those FG games, and then probably still beats me in 4, maybe even 5 if I'm just playing like a monster. But
Right.
I just don't really have much to say about that. I
Sure.
think it's just the novelty of being on stream just kind of was new to me, and I just lost to a better player. That's
Yeah.
really all there is to it.
Yeah. No, it is, and it not only is it new, but I think it's also first of many. That's my, that's what I think we're all thinking, right? Because, obviously you did so well. So I know you'll definitely obviously get up there again, and I'm sure you'll do better next time. It's Chem's really good, but yeah, it was cool to watch you play. Either way, obviously for me as a Fox player, it was like, okay, I'm curious to see, how people. It's always really cool to see other regions players play our players, because then in my head I'm like, okay, I need to think about different things, and seeing other players do that. So it was cool to watch you play either way, and you went up and represented us, and that's just how it goes. But losers now, this is where the money was made for sure, because now you're playing on a lifeline, right? You have to you if you lose a set, you're out, and this is to make top 64. So, or sorry, you played a set before you played Daniel, I believe, right?
Now it was
Oh,
today.
was it instantly Daniel? Okay, yeah. So that's like,
Like
oh,
getting
go
to
ahead.
round one, or getting out of round one winner side guaranteed that I would at least get 60.
Okay, yeah.
Matched my what I was seeded to get.
Okay.
So I think it was already, I guess at that point, I'm like, okay, I guess it's house money right now that, okay, I'm at least making my seed, but yeah, go on.
No, yeah. I was just gonna say that now, you're in losers, and you have to play after obviously losing to Chem. So I'm curious if you have like a strategy about like locking back in when you lose. Obviously, you were probably not assuming you were gonna beat Chem or anything like that, but still, like, you have to lose and you have to go and play a really important set to make top 64. So do you have like any strategies on that, or like do you have affirmations or things like that, or is it just let me go practice more ledge dashes and just get ready?
Uh, I think when you get knocked into losers, and probably the same for a lot of people, and I think it's starting to be a thing for me now lately, is that kind of gives you a wake up call, and you now have that sense of urgency, then compared to being in the winter side. So then that just kind of allows you to, I think, yeah, play with a fire on you a little bit more. I think is just one way to put it. And I knew that Daniel would be in my path at that point because I had known already that Arn beat him in winners, which meant that okay, we're dodging each other. So assuming I was to Ken, which is what ended up happening, that I would face Daniel. And so I think I found Gambit before the set, and like just talked about a few other things concerning the matchup. Actually, I think we did sneak in like maybe a game and a half or something of friendlies um, before like we had to play, and then yeah, I meet up with Daniel, we play, and it was a back and forth uh, struggle until the very last hit. I actually lost the first game and was down 2 games to 1, but I
All
kept
right.
bouncing back to keep myself in the set, and then I
No, it happened.
Yeah. Well, not only did I win, but the fashion that happened too was like um, I remember like Kevbot going up to tell me the next day, like you had your abate moment because of the ICG
Yes.
that saved me. Because and I remember like having that happen, and I was sure like everyone noticed it, that it was an ICG and everything. But I think people were questioning, "Oh, would that have killed you or whatever?" As I was going through that moment in the game, I figured, yeah, that probably is killing me. Like I just assumed that it would have. And I think if you just like go into the percents and where it was, I'm like 99.9% sure that would have killed me if the glitch didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
At that point, yeah, I think I'm at like 130, and I don't think I got hit again for the rest of the game until I won.
Yeah. It was a like okay, the best I can describe it for those of you that weren't there and watching it live, it like when you go on YouTube and you look up like wild Smash moments or something like that, or you think about the Smash documentary and you think about like Isaiah versus Ken and those close matches, or Mewtwo King versus Mango or something like that. And like these moments in time in Smash history where you're thinking about and you're like, oh my gosh, like what would have been to be there? That's what that moment felt like. Like when it went game 5 and it was last stock and you two weren't hitting each other. When you first there was the ICG. That was like when it really first started. I was like, whoa, like because I'm pretty sure it was confirmed that you were actually going to die from the up air if you didn't ICG. And when that happened, I was like, whoa, like that's a second chance. And then there was like a whole minute that went by where you weren't getting it. Like that entire time, it felt like one of those moments, like those legendary moments that you always think about on YouTube or Smash history. And then it was just like we weren't sure what was gonna happen because obviously, like I feel like when you watch Luigi players, they're always just willing to swing. You know what I mean? And you were just like you're steady and calm. And I remember a few of us were like somebody get hit or this neutral was wild, like, and then you hit that wave dash forward up smash on the read, and like if you miss that up smash, like let's just imagine that I don't know they that like Daniel, like I don't know, does uh something around it and hits you, or smash attacks or something, I don't know, could do a number of different things to beat it or shields it, whatever, like you could have lost the game right there, but you went for it. So I just like I need to know the moment, like that whole minute, like what did it feel like? And then what, I mean, obviously it's hard to know, but what prompted you to just go for that read?
I think it was after the ICG. I think it was about 30 seconds
Mm.
between then and the end of the game. But yeah, as I said, I don't think I got hit again until the game was over. So at that point, it was just maybe the best neutral I've ever played in my career. Just or the fact that it resulted in me winning and me not getting hit. But um, yeah, I just knew that with the matchup, I just can't challenge Yoshi on the platforms, or else I'm gonna get shield drop up there, and at that point, I just die. It happened. The ICG was activated on me getting a forward smash, and I don't think I was going for that. I think I might have just like tried to um, wave land down and then do a forward air, but I did a bit too early, so I do an F smash instead.
Yeah.
And he gets the shield drop up there on me, and then well, for the switch, I would have died. So instead, I was just like begging for him to come down to the ground, and I was like doing wavelands on the side plats, like not on the platform he's on, but just like elsewhere, and just trying to just move around and just like find some kind of specific movement sequence that would get him to cave and come down so I could hit him. And I think I eventually got um, some kind of combo that got him to about kill percent. I remember getting him off stage like a bit later there, and I was getting ready to read a double jump and to
Mm.
try to like hit him after the armor is gone, which I try to do sometimes. But a mix-up that he kept doing during the set is that he would cancel the double jump with a back air, which is something I'd never seen before. I even like had sets with Daniel on online before, and I hadn't seen him do that yet.
Mm.
And like Gavin never did that, and I don't remember Glex ever doing that to me. But yeah, that's something he did early in the set, and I eventually um, got the read on it and punished the back air. But then he that was like early in the set, and then he didn't do it again until game 5 on that last stop. He like saved that mix up.
Wow.
So I remember like watching him do that, and I'm like, damn, I can't hit him here. So I thought that might have been it, and I'm gonna have to win neutral again.
Wow.
By the time I got the kill, he was at about 120, I think. So with the up smash and everything, yeah, I don't think I hadn't gotten a kill on him. If not the whole set, at least not for a while. Like he was just not letting me get any of that. And I think I remember Holborn telling me, like, yeah, I just would have gone for enough smash like right away, or just would have, swung for it more frequently. But the way that it played out, it did really seem like I was saving it till the very
It
end,
did. It did.
right? It's but I think from my POV, it was more like I didn't find a window where I thought it would work until that very moment, where I saw, wait, here's a opportunity for me to go for it, and ended up working out because he did like a short out back air, I think, and the up smash beats it, and I think it like barely killed him too. I feel like
Very close.
you remember, and actually I just have the clip from Nikki's stream, but you can see that after I hit it, I like wave dash like toward the stage. So
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to try to edge guard him in case he doesn't die. Like I was, and I think there was like maybe 2 minutes left in the game timer. Like the game itself took like 6 minutes. It took a while.
Mm.
So, but that's also goes down to my playstyle. I'm not above going to timer if it comes to that. Not that I'm trying to time people out, but I'm willing to play it at a slow pace if I think that's what I have to do to win. You know?
Yeah. So cool. Yeah.
And to your point, I'll also add that yeah, if I miss that up smash, I probably. The thing is too, like we were both like swinging on the smash attacks and I think whiffing a lot. So there was like plenty of down smashes he was throwing out that I think he missed, and I think there were smash attacks that I threw out that I missed too. So I would think that if I miss that up smash, maybe he goes for a down smash, and if I hits, I die, or if it whiffs, then I have, in theory, an opportunity to punish, but with the nerves, then maybe I screw that up and miss a wave dash, and then I, air dodge, and then that gives him an opportunity to down smash again, and then I lose that way. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard to know.
Game 5 spaghetti, is a real thing, but it ended up working out my way, thankfully, and it. Part of my emotion with that pop off, I'll get into this too, was many things. The primary reason was just the fact that I was aware that people were watching. I didn't know Nikki was streaming it, but I did hear people cheering for me, cheering for Daniel. I knew that a lot of New Englanders were behind me. I realized as those last 30 seconds were going down, I felt like this was a moment that's now become bigger than me. Like our whole region is like being watched right now, and like I just felt this inside me that I just had to win to make ourselves look good. That it wasn't about me anymore. It was about New England. Like that was really what the emotion that came out of me after I won.
Yeah.
You can even again, you watch the pop up and all the screaming that we were doing, and the last thing I screamed before I have Django come up to me and say, yeah, good shit, I screamed New England, if you can read my lips.
Yeah.
So, that's true what I'm saying. It was about our region looking good and showing what we can do. So, I also remember, too, one thing that was going through my head is I remember, Tori made top 64 by beating DZ, another really good Yoshi. And I remember thinking, during those last 3 seconds, I'm in the same situation. Wait a minute. There was another thing that was going in my head that made me think that, yeah, maybe this is meant to be.
Damn. That's legendary. I think that's so awesome. I feel like it's so interesting. Anytime I talk to people that were watching the set, whether they're in New England or not, I feel like the set, even though there is footage of exactly what happened, it somehow keeps getting way more absurd every time I talk to somebody. Someone will say "Oh my God, they did nothing. They didn't throw any moves out." Others will say it was 2 minutes without touching each other, and you're out here just being yeah, it was just 30 seconds. And it's I feel like that's when when people just have this view of what happened.
Probably felt like 2 minutes.
That's what it felt like. Yeah, no, for sure. And
I think to me it felt that way too. But when you go back to the the video, it turned out, wait, it was only 30 seconds.
Yeah,
But yeah, we weren't hitting each other. We were just like moving around, just trying to get the other to cave and overcommit.
exactly.
We're playing the neutral game.
Exactly, yeah. I think when you have players or audience members that like remember the set in a very specific way and it's different, that's when you know like you really did something special because that's when everybody has their own like unique viewpoint. And so I think that's so cool. And yeah, it was definitely about New England. Like obviously, I mean, first and foremost, I want to say you're so good and it's so sick to see you do well. And I think you're just such a big grinder and I remember the days of not even too long ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, when you were coming to NGP and nobody knew who you were, but we were just like laughing because, of course, Greenstach plays Luigi, and you were like just owning people, but like didn't like yet reach where you're at now, and like to see you go where you're at, it's just like so awesome. But yeah, like I think that's first and foremost. So like you gotta take some credit for yourself, the work that you put in, but there is so much riding behind that moment for New England. And I think it really summed up the weekend for the region. Like everybody did so well. And I think you were at the front of that for everybody and you really spoke for the region. So it was so sick to see you do well.
Yeah, that certainly means a lot, and that's probably part of when I was talking about the pop off of my emotion. I think I could even just get into a whole tangent on sports psychology. I'll try to keep it brief, but just the idea that I felt New England behind my back made me feel like I wasn't alone in those last moments of Game 5.
Yeah.
I like had support behind me that may have given me also a mental fortitude to find a way to make it work, to find a way to win.
Oh yeah.
And I realized too that like my placing actually equaled that of Sassume and Hobart. The all three of us, we tied as the highest place in Luigi at Collision. So to me, that left me, I suppose, a bit unsatisfied that, hey, if I had gone like one round further, then I would have been the single highest place in Luigi. Yet people were talking about my run more than either of those two, which
Yeah.
is bizarre. But it's true, and it's probably just because of the fashion that it happened. So I'll gladly take the attention. More importantly, I'm glad that it's also putting our region back on the map, but above and beyond anything for me. And you would think that next major I go to, whenever that is, that hopefully I get seated a little bit higher, and hopefully I can do a little bit better than 49.
Absolutely.
Going from 97th at Gommel to 65th at Supernova and now 49th at Collision. So naturally, the next goal is to get 33rd or higher, but the harder and harder it is to do that, I understand. But I mean, you never know what'll happen if you just don't stop trying.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I think what was really it was unfortunate, but it was also like a cherry on top of you like having to play younger right after because I think it was both like okay, it's unfortunate that we have to lose one of these two players from the bracket, but it was also it just went like it just told us like wow, New England really went that far that now they're like playing now we're playing each other. So I think and you still put up like an amazing show. I mean, you brought it all the way back. You know what I mean? So even though Younger's an amazing opponent, like y'all put on a good show.
Yeah, the fact is with Younger is that I was expecting to be playing on the side stream again, and then just before we were getting ready to play, Anchor just goes, "No, you guys are going to be on the main stage," and I was definitely thinking, "Oh." Those first two games, I mean, I'll certainly tell you, and this may sound like a total John, but I got stage fright. Like, I don't think I was playing great at all, and it was just because I was caught off guard by having to play on stage. But I was thinking going into the third game that I was gonna like get blown out 3-0, go down sad, and honestly would have been embarrassing to play that bad after getting that far and getting the opportunity to play on stage. But thankfully, I found something that worked and that allowed me to take it all the way to Game 5. And I suppose part of it is the fact that, of course, I've faced Younger before, so I'm familiar with his game, and I know that there's still that thought in the back of my mind that I can still do this. And the fact is that I've defeated Younger before on a couple occasions. I think at this point, our head-to-head record, I think after Collision, it's like I think he still has the head-to-head over me in in-person sets. Granted, I don't think we face each other often, and I'm sure like over the if say if I went to Balance Patch more often than I have in the past year or so before he moved, if we like saw each other more often, I'm sure he probably would have by a larger margin at the head-to-head record. But like the point being that because it's someone I've faced before, that might have been the help I needed to like actually make it a real competitive set. And yeah, so I won the third game, I won the fourth game on Yoshi's, and then yeah, the way the fifth game unfolded too was weird because then Younger, like, he adapts back. He actually seemed like he was going to be on the verge of four stalking me. And then somehow I got it to last stock.
Yeah.
And I lose the game, and that was it. But I think if I had gotten him to his last stock before I was at 100%, then that would have been a more realistic scenario of me bringing it all the way back and completing the reverse 3-0. I had like a combo on him, like on his second to last stock, and he was at 0, and my percent was like still really low. If I somehow zeroed to death that, then that would have been more. I think that would have been more interesting.
Mhm.
But by the time I did get to last stock, I was at like at 100. So then by the time it was over, I'm like, okay, yeah, because then there's just too much of a hole to climb out of.
Yeah.
But if it gone to that other scenario where I was at low percent still, by the time he got to his last stock, and then if I still lost, that would have been more heartbreaking. But the way it played out, I was like, yeah, that's okay.
Right.
And I think if I won that, I would have faced Faith, who I could have also played a Supernova, but also didn't advance far enough to get to face her. Or is it Super?
I'm actually not sure. I would just use they. I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I was gonna say they them. So if I'm wrong with that, I have some serious apologies. But at Supernova, I was knocked out by MGMG for top 64. So I got 65th. And if I had advanced in that round, then Faith would have been my next opponent there. So that's, I guess, two majors in a row that Faith dodged me.
True. Yes.
It probably would have beaten me, but you know what I'm saying.
Yo,
But the weird
Faith
thing
dodged you.
there's other arts that have dodged me too somehow. Like I think at both Fight Pit and the Wavelength Free Local, I was supposed to, or if I advanced around further, I would have had to face Mar, but I didn't get far enough to face Mar either. So yeah, I mean, and who knows if I can beat Rishi, then I guess you never know.
Absolutely. Huh? Yeah, and I mean, either way, even though the run ended there, I think it was so fun to watch. It was so cool to see. Very motivating for us, like both. I think us watching there at Collision, but people watching at home, like there were people that were so excited to watch you play, and it was just, I think, very very awesome. Like it felt like everything came together again. Just this one moment in Smash history, even though it's just like a round two set, or whatever, but I'm telling, like, that's what it felt like. So it's just so cool. And again, like I was saying earlier, your run is just part of this whole New England, like this New England wave of results that happened at Collision. And I think that it just means so much for the region. And it is just one major, when who knows what happens next major. But either way, people now know, like, New England is a force to be reckoned with. Like there's no, when we play each other, or like all the best players either play each other weekly or like bi-weekly. There's that many tournaments. At some point, like it's like lightning in a bottle, like it just keeps getting so stronger, and it finally just burst, and New England did so well.
That's the goal. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And I think the dream is to make New England the mecca of melee.
Yes.
You
Damn right.
know what I mean?
Damn right.
I don't think it's that bold of a claim to say because of how active our region is and how many good players that we have. I mean, sure, we don't have any top 50 players in our region currently,
No.
but like the potential is there. So who's to say that within a couple of years that some of us might be able to break through and
Yeah.
get there. As long as we still, as a region, have the passion to keep having tournaments and keep having the drive to improve, then anything's possible.
Anything's possible. All right, so what's next for you though? Like before we wrap up, like what is, I know so actually I wanted to mention this because I remember at the start of the year you had told me, I think you have a tweet about this too, where you talk about like what you wanted to do this year. You talked about like wanting to, I think it was like you wanted to go to at least one major and you hit that, or like, and you wanted to start a weekly up in Northern Mass and you did that, and you, I think there was some other stuff I don't remember, but there was a number of things, and I feel like you've accomplished that stuff and more. So what's next for you, both like tournament wise, but also like goals for you?
Well, my goals for this year is actually my pin tweet still, and you're right. One of them was to travel to at least one out of region major. I've done Genesis, Gommel, Supernova, Collision. So I think that's it this year. I mean, if we're not counting Vacation Land or whenever the heck Wavelength is going to happen, I
Yeah,
suppose
yeah.
it'll be next year.
Next year, yeah.
But that's doesn't count for either way because out of region major was the criteria. So yeah, I did that and that's just expanding my network of people that I know to get my name out there a little bit more. But yeah, the second one, I actually had on my other screen, I have it so I have my pin tweet up, so I'm reading this verbatim. The second one was to, yeah, get a local scene going in Northeast Mass. So yeah, Bit Bar that I'm running now, that's been going on since April, and now we've had 4 editions of that. I'll mention once again that I won the most recent combat. Want to mention that.
Dude, you know how ridiculous it is to double eliminate David? It doesn't happen. Anything. So well done, by the way.
Did happen. But yeah, besides that too, just it's been going well so far. So I'm glad to see the support that we've had, and we've had a couple of like regulars that have shown up there that don't really go to anything else. So that's good to see that we're just having more players get involved in the scene, even if it's just supporting Bitbar. So that's great. The third one, which was the most bold one, was to win at least one monthly, and because I won Bitbar, you can.
Yes. True.
I guess it had to take me creating my own monthly too, but it counts. I kept it ambiguous enough for that reason.
I love it. I love it.
Because winning a monthly is hard. I had won like weeklies before, including this year and the year before. So getting just at least one is already amazing. Because to do that, think about it, you probably have to beat another PR player to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, for Bitbar, I'm not sure if I've had a tournament where I got first as with at least one other PR player in attendance.
Mm.
Like I think it was like I won because I was the only like New England PR player that was there.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
I think Bitbar, maybe there's another time I can't remember, but at least in my recent memory, Bitbar was like the first time I had won a tournament with at least one other PR player in attendance, and it was the best of them all. That was also there.
Yeah.
So how about that?
Hell yeah.
And then the fourth one, which was optional for my goal, is to maybe start streaming. I don't know if I will or will not do that, but I feel like if I were to do that, and that kind of leads into what's next for me. If I do, then I imagine it would just be me either streaming like Slippy matches, kind of like how you guys do sometimes. Like, Nick does that, you occasionally do that. So just be the same thing, where I just do that for like, I don't know, about an hour or so and just interact with other people. Or maybe other games if I feel like doing it.
Yo, Wizard 101? Yo? Yo, we got a duo in Wizard 101. We'll stream that,
I'd be down, honestly. I mean, when the next update comes out in the fall, that would be an opportune time.
I think it would be really funny if if we started streaming and it was not Melee and it was Wizard 101. I just think it'd be so funny.
Well, you have the title as like Melee or something.
Yeah.
Well, and then it turns out it's Wiz gameplay. And And then unless you're in the loop of our community, you wouldn't get it.
Exactly.
Because that's also my version of the meme now is Greenstach was
Greenstach Wizard 101.
yeah, that's all the goals I have for this year.
Okay.
So on top of like, again, will I or not stream? We'll see. I really just have to figure out how to stream, honestly. So we'll see. Maybe if not this year, early next year
Gotcha.
or something. But besides that, what's next for me, melee wise, is hopefully to keep going to more tournaments as the year keeps going. I've already been to like I didn't even realize until like recently that I'm already at 33 tournaments this season, which is already more than last season, which was 32. I didn't realize I was going to so much stuff,
Yeah.
but because of that, I feel like maybe I should cut down on that a little bit. At least, not that I'm taking a break or anything, but just maybe only go try hard in the monthlies or the weekend stuff, or rather attend the
Yeah, yeah.
ones. But I say try hard because if I still want to show up to a weekly, then maybe I'll just do a secondary run or something.
Ooh.
But
Green cash? Green cash?
right. Well, the reason also just to be like, so I can just hang out with people and just chill. So, like, I know we have like the awards at the end of every season,
Yes.
like, who attends the most tournaments and stuff. But low key, I don't want to be on that. So I think that implies that I don't have a life, and I do. So
By the way, just so you know, just in case we combine like people's main accounts, but also if you play with your secondaries, it does count. So
fair enough. But also, you should know that I don't do secondary runs often.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would affect it one way or another. But the point is, I'm gonna keep being active in New England for the foreseeable future. Hopefully, I can keep on improving further. I don't really have any ideas on what I want to do next year for any specific goals.
Okay.
I already accomplished all of mine for this year with 4 months to spare. So
Yeah.
I think the point is just like figuring that out. I got like a whole another third of a year to figure out what I want to do for next year.
That's right.
It's probably like still go to majors, like the big ones anyway, like Genesis hopefully and Supernova, Collision. I mean, maybe ones that I haven't been to, like Riptide's happening this weekend, and I'm not doing that. Maybe I'll do that next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think, but for now, yeah, it's what's next for me is ambiguous because I'm still figuring that out. Still kind of just enjoying again, what I think has been this first thing I've said in this whole interview is that I think I just had the best month of my melee career so far. All the in-region results and the 2 best majors I've ever had. So yeah, hopefully it keeps going up from there. And whether it's me or other people in our region, hopefully our region gets more and more attention and the respect it deserves.
Absolutely. All right, Devin. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that are going to keep watching, the next interview will be with Arty, so stick around. We'll be talking to Arty about Hog and the history of Hog. So, yeah, definitely stick around for that. But thank you so much, Devin. Appreciate you. Obviously, a good friend. You did so well. I'm so proud of you and all of New England. So, well done. And here's to more majors where we just kill it and just do so well. So, thank you so much for being on here.
Thanks for having me again, Jen. It was a pleasure.
All right. What's up, everybody? If you're just joining us, this is the next segment of the podcast. We had mentioned a little earlier that we were interviewing some people today, and we just finished up with the Greenstach interview. So go check that out if you want to get some collision overview from him. But today, I did want to also include another interview, which is a new segment that we're going to be doing hopefully every time we do the podcast, which is like our local TO segment. New England Melee has a lot of different TOs, whether they're regionals, weeklies, even if they're just like school, university tournaments. We have so many TOs that are doing stuff around the region, and we wanted to just kind of highlight folks that we think are doing a really good job, and they can kind of talk about the history of their tournament. And starting with Arty, he's going to be our first local TO we're going to talk to. If you don't know Arty, he is a top New England player, plays Peach. and is from Connecticut, of course, and owns and runs Hog, whether it's Melee or other events that we're going to get into today. But yeah, Artie, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming through.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Arty. You introduced me, but I took over Hog in 2019. I've been a player since 2014, and the progression from being a player to owning the space is its whole own story. It's kind of like, it's kind of what I think everyone in the community should be like, where it's like they are a player and then they get something out of the community, and because of that, they want to give to it so that other people can have it as well. So yeah, I play Peach. I also play Street Fighter. I play Guile in Street Fighter. That's been fun to enjoy a second game. Pretty different game. A game where combos are all like black and white. And on the defense, you don't really have a lot once the combo gets going. But anyway.
Yeah,
that's
yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you for coming through. We really appreciate it. Being our
No problem.
first TO. Okay, so I want to start off. There's a lot to talk about. I think Hog has a rich history, but I really just want to first start with, and I know you haven't like owned Hog for the whole time it's existed, but
Yeah.
if you know and want to talk about like the history of Hog, where it came from, if you know the original owners, or if you can talk about kind of, why it started and what it was originally before it became what it is today.
So I don't it gets a little fuzzy from before when I started, because like once I started, I was I got an idea of who was running it at the time. But as far as I know, it was started by a guy named Felipe. And Felipe wanted to basically, I don't know if it was like an effort to, start a business or provide something for the community or, make a living. But he started Hall of Gaming as like a LAN cafe where like, hey, you can buy time on PCs. So he got a bunch of gaming PCs. He charged for, time on them, stuff like that. I think eventually Ryan got involved, another guy. So they were partnering and they were running this LAN cafe. And eventually someone from the Melee community, funny enough, I think it might have been Matt.Zeb, which I find very funny. He actually reached out to Hall of Gaming and said, hey, would you guys be willing to let us start running Melee tournaments here? We'll bring all the equipment. We'll do it all. You just have to let us go. We'll pay you some amount of money, the venue fee or whatever it was. And I guess they agreed. And then ever since, Hog has been a Melee tournament. So it's gone through a few different locations, but it's always been in Wallingford, because Wallingford actually has its own power plant, which makes electricity super cheap. It doesn't go through Eversource. It doesn't go through any other company. So, like, for example, Hog's electric bill is like $150 to $200 a month, that's like pretty low for like a house, let alone, a space that for like 10 hours a day, I have like the whole room, all this equipment on, right? Absolutely no, I don't even make an effort to really like save on energy, really. Like I don't, like besides the basics of like turning off the lights when we close, right? But, yeah, so, it's pretty dirt cheap, pretty great for a LAN cafe. So he picked a good spot, I think. But yeah, so Felipe and Ryan were running it. Eventually Felipe said, hey, I want out. Sorry, maybe because it wasn't working out. And Ryan moved to a new spot in town. And he was starting a new business called Wallingford Computer, where he like repaired computers for people and maybe built PCs, I think. And Hog came along. The Melee scene came along, even though the Hog name for their business was gone. The Hog name for the Melee tournament was not gone. So people still called it Hog. And it was like run out of this computer repair shop. And Ryan, props to him, he was very supportive. He did a lot of work for the community. He actually he streamlined the setup process. He built a cart for holding CRTs. He, created all these signs. He got us a fridge, stuff like that. So, he was very supportive for a while, but eventually, as like, he was just some dad, he had never done gaming. He had, he didn't know tournaments like that. So he was really relying on the community to actually make the tournament part happen. But he was down to support however way he could. So very, very big respect to him for sticking it out for a long time. Eventually, he ran out of steam. He has a family. He has like 4 kids, I think. And he has like a full-time job besides it. So, I'm sure his life is hectic. And, Hog started to kind of like dwindle in terms of like upgrades, in terms of like, sometimes I would show up and there wouldn't be drinks in the fridge, and, we would have to go somewhere else to get a drink. And like it was stagnating, and the numbers, right after the documentary, numbers were great, and then they steadily went down.
Yep.
And eventually it got to the point where we were like getting down to like, 10 people, less than 10 people a week, when we were once like 40 people a week, which, was a community wide decline. But, I was like, dude, if only I was in charge, like I would be doing stuff right now. Like it wouldn't be a matter of money. I was very lucky to have a software engineering job, and, money was of no issue. I would, be able to do whatever I needed. So, yeah, we had moved a couple times. I mentioned we went to Wallingford Computer, and then we went to we started in Wallingford Computer's basement. We moved up because the fire marshal said, hey, you can't have that many people in the basement. And then we moved, and then he found out, hey, well, computer repair isn't also that profitable in Wallingford. I'm going to move the computer repair shop into my house, and I'll get you guys this basement, which is what people know Hog as today.
Okay.
So, it was a cheaper option. It's like below level, below ground, not as furnished and not as like, good looking, but, it's come to be the, nice and homey place that it is now, I think. So eventually, I'm like, I get a new job, I another software engineering position, and with it comes a big raise, and I'm like, dude, what if I like like bought this business off him? This would be my like project, like this would be my fulfillment. I really didn't really like my job, even though it was making me a lot of money, and I didn't really get fulfillment for my job, so I needed fulfillment somewhere. And I think giving to the community is a very easy way to get fulfillment. Because, I was someone who had been competing for 5 years at this point, and I was like, dude, this is all I think about. This is what I like to do. This is where all my friends are. This is what I look forward to every week, So, I wanted to give back, and I also wanted to, for me, like the tournament being better is good for me as well, because I go every week. So, all of these things coming together, having the resources, having the motivation to do it. I reach out to him, and at this point, I already have a key. He's trusted me to like open and close, Ryan. And he's kind of been hands off. He comes every once in a while to like pay the rent and collect the money, to, do stuff like that. But he's not really involved. Stock was a big TO at the time, as well as a few other people. Ben, I don't know if people remember Ben. And forgive me if I'm forgetting you. Khalib was also TOing for a while. Yeah, so I reach out to him, and at this point, like I said, I had a key, so I went into Hog, and I actually wrote down everything that was in Hog, all the equipment. I looked online, I did some research, priced out everything, and I came around to like, hey, there's like, I don't know, $5,000 worth of equipment down here. Like if I offered him something more than that, maybe he doesn't want Hog anymore. Maybe it's not enough passive income to, justify what he's, putting in, or like, the rest of his life is losing. So I offer him. He seems kind of confused. He doesn't really know what I'm trying to say. So I'm trying to make it very clear. And he said, "Oh man, I don't know. Let me get back to you on that one." And I was like, "Okay." So a couple weeks pass, nothing. A month passes, nothing. And I'm like, "Oh man, he doesn't want to do it. Dang, I was really looking forward to that." And then randomly, he gives me a call, and he said, "Hey, about Hog. When I took over Hog, what I really wanted to do with Hog. I'm talking as Ryan. What I really wanted to do with Hog was like provide a place for kids to play and meet people and hang out with each other. Because I really wanted to give back to the community. And I'm just very busy. I've neglected it, not out of like not caring about it, but because I'm very busy. So, and he was like, "Hey, well, when I got Hog, it was just passed to me. So how about I just pass it to you?" And I was like, "What?" So he's like, "Yeah, you can have it for free. You could take that money that you were offering me and put it into the space. It would do a lot of good." And I was like, "That's very nice." Probably one of the most wholesome things that's happened to me in my entire life. So that was a life-changing moment for sure. Because fast forward to today, Hog's my full-time job. It pays my bills. Yeah, it pays my bills and all my loans. I have a lot of student loans. And its bills, and has enough left over at the end of the month to buy better equipment, or like invest in something, or like donate to whatever. So it can give back to the community in that way. So very thankful for my community for making that possible, and for the volunteers that make running the events possible, because it's more than a one-man operation. I can't do it all by myself. At least not if I want to keep playing as well. But yeah. So he gave that to me, and I remember noticing one day, wow, I have gone to Hog every single day since he gave it to me and worked on it for 18 days. And I just like kept track, and I was like, wow, that's a lot. And at this time, it was 2019, November 2019, and the first Hog after he gave it to me, I kind of like, it was like a modest Hog. It was like 12 to 15 people, and I get on the mic right before bracket starts, and I'm like, hey guys, I have a special announcement. Um, uh, Ryan has, agreed to hand over the ownership of Hog to me, and to roaring
Hey.
applause in the room, and I started to tear up for sure because like suddenly the people in the community were like, wow, someone on the inside has power here, and can make a difference. And I'm sure that they noticed that like it was getting neglected, and like they were kind of being like it was declining and there wasn't upgrades, and like and for 18 days I worked on, I reorganized the whole room, put tables different places. One of the first things I did was buy a bunch of AV splitters to make double CRT setups.
Yes.
Yeah, so stuff that I was like, dude, tournaments could do this if they had the money, and they just don't have the money or the resources. And like, what's unique about Hog is, we have this room to ourselves. Like, you would never have a tournament that has to set up every tournament,
Exactly.
have double CRT setups. You're gonna carry twice the CRTs than you need. I don't think so. So, so yeah, like I was like, what could we do? What is it about Hog that drew me in? Why was I going every week? I need to capture that in other people, like to make this possible, to make this like long term like viable for me, and not just for me, but for like expanding, growing, being able to get better equipment, stuff like that. Like I couldn't just keep funding it forever. So yeah, in the first couple of years, we spent a lot of money, investing in the space, doing things, and now we run 11 different tournaments a week, and I'm there 5 nights a week running them with the help of my volunteers. And it's my full-time gig, so very happy with how far it's come. Very happy with Ryan, who's also still kind of involved. I still talk to him from time to time. He actually offered to help pay for something recently, so I might take him up on it. I don't know how expensive it's going to be, so we'll see.
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
that
So yeah, go ahead.
history. Holy crap. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
think one of the things I think that is the most impressive about the Hog and your situation with Hog is that it's very rare. I think that I mean I haven't seen it myself often that somebody that just is a community member like buys the venue of the tournament and
Yeah.
is now the like full time. That's their job. Like obviously you have
Yeah.
TOs that do it on the side, right? Or maybe they do have a venue, but they have to have a second job to pay for the venue or something like that. And I think that what you and your team have been able to do to make it happen is it's extraordinary. Like it's so
Yeah.
interesting and very unique. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, it's very rare. I think I was in such a uniquely strong position, where I had disposable income. I had an opportunity to take, a space that was dedicated for the tournament, which is very different from like other spaces that are like at a bar or like. I think that's kind of how the future of locals could be. It's like someone needs to have enough disposable income to get one started, and they need to have their own space that they rent. So like I pay rent on the Hog space and the utilities and all that stuff. And if you have your own space, you suddenly get to do a lot of powerful things relating to like saving time, and buying equipment that you don't get to normally do. So Hog's been able to expand into the fighting games, with like PlayStations and PCs and stuff. But like you can't really expand like that if you and a couple other people have to put a bunch of equipment in your cars every week and bring it
Yeah.
there, right? It's just not possible. So and we get to like double up on a lot of the equipment. Like the monitors get used for like half our games, so like the equipment gets a lot of value. And I'm paying rent for the month. I'm not paying by the day. So
Right,
being
right.
open more days in the month gets me value there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really unique. I can't say it's going to work for everyone. I feel very lucky that it worked out for me. And I have such a dedicated community that is willing to come like every week. And I think it's really powerful that like I saw the potential because I was somebody that was going every week. Like and it worked on me, whatever they did, right? So whatever they did, it worked on me, and I kept going every week without fail, unless I was like sick or busy.
So one
Right.
thing I really want to kind of pick your brain about is
Yeah.
I feel like Hog is so polished, and whether it's like you were talking about having the separate CRTs and being able to be so efficiently run and things like that. But I actually, the way I look at it, I see the polish a lot in from the viewer like watching the stream and the
Uh-huh.
graphics, and like when you go to Hog and the door has like the logo on it, and then you get
Yeah.
in and it has the whole banner in there. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, like I feel like from an outsider's perspective, when you're looking at Hog, it looks so polished, everything looks so polished. I'm very curious about this logo. Like where did it come from? Like I understand it's a Hog, obviously, but like
Yeah.
has it always looked like that? Has it always existed like that? And I know that because I've worked with you on the side for Star League. I know
Yeah.
how polished you are with that kind of stuff. I just want to know, you know?
Yeah, so the logo is a hog, and some people think it's like a little ghost.
I
I wish I
thought
could
that.
like point at it. Yeah, uh, but like, but it does look like a cute little ghost, and maybe we'll run with that as a fool's bit or something one day. But yeah, the logo's always been, as far as I know, it's always been that, and I think it was designed by the old owner's son, and I think I just inherited it. It was like people knew it as the hog logo, and you know. And there's another story with closing down Hog and reopening it after COVID. That I changed the color scheme. It was black and white, which I thought was a little, like I couldn't do much graphic wise. Like you
Sure.
can't run a black and white brand, in my opinion. But so like I kind of switched from black to like this darker gray, and white to like this blue, or vice versa, whatever way you look at it. So fun fact: the blue in the Shine logo, Shine logo. Funny I said that, but in the blue in the Hog logo is the same color as Fox's Shine, or Shine. So I literally opened up a picture of Shine, and I grabbed that color, and I was like, this is the color.
That's awesome.
So that's a fun little Easter egg for people. And the secondary blue color that you might see on our streams and stuff is Shine is like a gradient. The one blue is the lightest, and the other blue is the darkest color of Shine. So yeah.
Wow.
So
Fox just lives on always.
Yeah, he's gonna live on. If Melee dies, it's still gonna be on the stream for our other games. So I don't think Melee will ever die though. So
Nate, not the way that you're running your tournament, man. Not the way you're running your tournament.
It's like there's still new players getting into it and coming to Hog and finding like their home there. So
very cool. Yeah, that I think is, again, a lot of respect for just the polish and everything. I think that's kind of like where it starts. That's how people get their foot in the door, So I think that's super cool.
For sure.
I know this might be hard because you've been there for years, but if you can talk about one interesting moment, or like the most interesting that's ever happened. Like obviously I know, there's a lot of cool things that have ever happened and everything like that, but if you could select like one or two moments that you can remember, whether it's like someone winning a tournament or going on a huge run, or like was there like a crew battle that happened that you really enjoyed, like if you could remember two moments, what would those be?
Two moments, man. I kind of wish I had thought about this in advance, because
No,
I'm
no
sure
problem.
I'm gonna forget some of the
Yeah, for the audience,
things.
I'm basically just like throwing in these questions like off road.
Hey, think about the last 6 years and think about the best time that it's I worry about missing stuff, but there was one time someone proposed on the Hog stream.
Yeah. Yo,
so that happened.
what?
Yeah, and she said yes. So
let's go.
that did happen. It was at the Project M Theater, which was the PM Invitational, which for some reason we had at Hog.
Oh, that's sick. I didn't know that, actually. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a whole weekend in its own story. So I will not get into that. But
wow.
But yeah. Someone proposed. I think basically anytime like a huge underdog wins a tournament, especially if it's like their first time winning a tournament, is like really emotional. Even just a couple weeks ago, for Under Night, Blue Menace, he's a player, a Tekken, Street Fighter Under Night player, Grand Blue player. He comes for Hog, 1 or 2 times a week. He recently won the Under Night bracket over, basically some of our best players. And it was really powerful because it was a game 14, winners finals was best of, game 5.
Wow.
And it was a 3-1, 3-2, and it was just so much. Everyone in the venue was watching. No one was playing casuals or friendlies or whatever. And when he won, it was just like a roaring applause. And I think like there's just a handful of those moments when Weewa won his first Melee Hog. That
Hey.
was big. So I think that those stand out to me. And I think that's what should stand out too, because like that's what it's about. Like you want to see these like progressions, these like stories of these players who like get to have their big moment. And it's cool that Hog kind of like facilitates something like that. Whereas something that's very interesting to me about tournaments is like it lets you like have this moment that you would never have in your life. If you just like didn't have a hobby that like was something like this, where, you know, let's say your hobby is, you know, I don't know, even just playing video games like League of Legends or whatever, and you're at home and you have your big play, and you know it's awesome to you maybe, but it doesn't feel the same as like when you make your, you know, your big upset, and then you
Yeah.
turn around and there's like 50 people like screaming, like cheering for you. You know, it's totally different. So
That's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool.
I think Hog does a good job of like facilitating that. We have like a space where you can watch the stream. It's like very comfortable. Like, you know, we, you know, make sure the whole room knows about the match that's about to happen with like the intercom and stuff. And you know, it's just everything is like designed from like what gets people here, and in the time that they are here gets them to like get convinced that I should come back again.
Exactly.
So because like this is something that is worth doing. So if you focus on that and you don't focus on how do you make the most money? How do you make like, you know, like, I don't know, like the long-term, the best short-term goal, like how much should I price snacks to make the most money or something like that? Like, and you focus on like keeping people, basically 90% of Hog's income is retained players. It's like the people that come every week that are like, they show up and they buy their 2 Baja Blasts every week, and like that's where you get the money. I don't know. Like you get
Go
the
to
money
drink,
by
by the way.
like,
Go to drink.
yeah, it's great. Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't got a hard time buying them in bulk right now, but anyway, so yeah, so like it's about like retaining people, and it's really like nice. It's nice that I don't have to like optimize the money, and all I have to do is optimize like the experience for people, and then the money comes, right? Because maybe not all businesses are like that. Maybe they are, and I just, you know, I haven't been exposed to it. But very fortunate that Hog is something that like has retention, and like I care more about how they feel, how the person feels coming to the space,
Right.
and how they feel when they leave. And you know, the next week comes around, did that experience convince them that they should go again?
I think that's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Thought a lot about it.
No, yeah, that's what you gotta think as a TO and obviously an owner. Like you gotta think about these
Yeah.
things. And it actually kind of brings to my next question, which is, you know, because you mentioned other night, you're mentioning like how you're thinking about first and foremost the community, and then obviously money second, and how you can make it best for the community. But Hog is not just a Melee tournament. Like it is
Right.
there's so many cool like honestly for me, when I like 4 years ago or whatever, when I first started watching like Melee streams in New England, I only knew it as a Melee stream, but then because you always got the slideshow going, and I'm like, and I saw the other games, and I was like, whoa, like I just didn't know that there was a tournament happening every single day. I haven't seen that anywhere before. So talk to me about like how did you branch out with that? Because obviously, like you said originally, it was just kind of a shop or a LAN center, right, or something like that, something akin to that. But like, how did you branch out to multiple tournaments? And because some of those games, like I'm thinking, I don't know how big these communities are, you know, but I mean, clearly it's working.
Yeah, it's working for sure. I'm very lucky. So initially we were running Melee, right? Melee players went to Hog and they said, "Can we run Melee?" Okay, cool. And eventually PM did the same thing because they were like, "Hey, there's a Melee tournament here. Maybe we can run there." And PM got a local there for a while. You know, Smash 4 comes out. They started a small local. I wasn't in charge at the time. Ultimate comes out. You know, they keep running it. But at this point, we're only open like 2 nights a week when I take over. And, you know, the vision is like, how do I make this sustainable long term? How can I get the most value for the space, you know, which is to say our equipment and like paying for rent and stuff. Well, the natural next step is be open more days a week for other games. So it started with, well, initially there was a board game night on Fridays just because I wanted to hang out with my friends. So on Fridays we got together and played board games, and some of that ended up being Melee just because Melee players were there, or other games and stuff. People started to use Friday as just like, let's go hang out at Hog. So that was fun for a while, but unfortunately, it does not make any money. And eventually, Kikoho, who former Melee player,
Yo, the GOAT, actually.
he's for people who don't know, one of the best multiplayers in the world right now, maybe even number one. So I think it's arguable he's number one, but he wanted us to play Melty Blood. He wanted his friends to play Melty Blood with him. So he started a casual Friday tournament that was free for anyone who was just there hanging out. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna get a couple PS4s and I'm just gonna bring them to Hog and we're gonna just we're just gonna play." And so he got a few of us into Melty Blood. I did this funny thing where I was running the space, so I said I couldn't play, but then I was secretly grinding Melty Blood on the side for like 3 weeks. Yeah, it was very fun. Shout outs to Will Space Toast for helping me grind secretly, because Space Toast showed up on another night and we grinded on like Wednesdays or whatever. So so I grinded, and then one Friday I was like, sure, I'll enter, just for fun. Let's see how I do. And then obviously I'm just doing combos that none of these casual players have even experienced that. So like I just wiped the floor with everyone except the best player there, who was my training partner, Space Toast. So besides Kikoho didn't enter. He didn't want to just like beat everyone. So so that naturally formed into a few other people who played Melty Blood being like, hey, like, could we run other stuff here? And Kikoho and I talked about it, and we started to get some equipment, and then we had like plans to start with a tournament adding Guilty Gear Strive, another popular fighting game at the time and still is. And eventually we started Hog Moonlight, which is our Friday night anime fighter day. So and we put a couple pop bonuses on the games, and the communities turned up, and it was a success from there right away. So
Wow.
yeah, so we've got our foothold there. We're now one of like the most prominent venues in the Northeast for basically every game we run. So I'm very happy with how far it's come. Naturally, when Street Fighter 6 came out, it needed to be a part of things. And when Street Fighter 6 we added and it worked out, hey, the Tekken players were like, hey, can we run Tekken 7 while we're it's at the end of its life until Tekken 8 comes out? I was like, sure, let's add it. So we were running Tekken 7. Tekken 8 comes out and obviously gets in. Grand Blue comes out. We add it to Tuesday. Like every time these new fighting games come out, we just like kind of added them to the lineup. And if they did well, we kept them. And if they didn't do well, like Mortal Kombat died in a few weeks. City of the Wolves, unfortunately, also died in a few weeks. That one was promising. But yeah, so, and now 2XKO is coming out next week, the League of Legends fighter.
True.
And we're going to be running that. So hoping for that to be popular. That'd be fun.
Wow.
We haven't run anything like that yet. So yeah, so that's kind of how it went down. And naturally adding more days of the week, there was less, more work to be done. And, I was working a full-time job. So when we added, fighting games, I was like, there's like too much work to do. I actually have to work on this full time and take a risk here. So I quit my software engineering job to like start fighting games.
Yeah, wow.
And, that was like in, I don't know, 2023 at this point. And, until April last year, it was actually draining money. And April was the first month that it profited.
Wow.
So, or it paid all my bills and its bills. So very happy with how far it's come. Seriously. It's like a dream come true. So
that's so
hopefully
cool.
I will be doing this forever.
Yeah, no, I hope so too. Hog is amazing. Yeah, that's really cool. Like I said, I think it's. I mean, I've seen other venues have games on other days, but never with the community every single day like Hog does. I haven't seen that. So it's like really cool, and it just means that, which is actually my last question for you, which is that like Hog, I feel like it means so much to Connecticut. It's more than just like a melee tournament or an ultimate tournament or like an under night tournament or whatever. It seems like now it's become like genuinely a home for just like a home away from home. Like even if it's just like you mentioned with the board games when that started, like people were coming just to hang out, and it seems like now every single day, like whoever you are, no matter what you're into, you can come to Hog and just like have fun, enjoy whatever you want to play, and that's just like it's so cool. So I want to hear what when you feel like when you like look back, I suppose, on all these years of work that you've put into this venue and this like project, like do you see like people's lives actually changing because like I know it sounds maybe kind of cringy, but like I do
No,
think
it
that that's
doesn't.
like legit.
That's what it's about. Yeah. I mean, certainly my life has changed. I have, people have come up to me and told me directly that their life has been completely changed by Hog.
Wow.
So, like, I'm getting emotional. But there's a lot of people who have like come to be like, hey, I would not be competing still, or I wouldn't have friends right now. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's really nice to be able to provide, for a community like that, like give them a place where they can look forward to going to. They come to hang out with their friends. And a lot of people who come to Hog, their entire friend group is people that they met at Hog, and through the community that way. So, and we're very unique in that Hog doesn't close at 11 p.m. Like it closes when I feel like going home. So if people are still having fun, I stay open.
Yo.
So we're regularly open on the weekdays until like 2 or 3 a.m.
Wow.
And people will just hang out, play fighting games or whatever, play board games, or sometimes people are just hanging out talking, and hey, I'm up for it. If I can provide them something unique that they can't get anywhere else, that's better. They might come back next week, and certainly it's more memorable for me. So hopefully it's more memorable and worth it for them too. So, yeah. So for sure, it's a home for a lot of people. Lots of people come there just to hang out. They don't even play in tournaments. And a lot of people like come multiple times a week even. Like they just like, hey, I like Hog. I play on Friday nights, but some of my friends go on Tuesdays too, so I'll just go on Tuesdays to hang out with them.
That's awesome.
So it's just how it is. And hopefully I have a project I'm thinking about starting soon. That is hopefully going to even bring the community closer together between the days. So
ooh,
that's just a tease.
Yo, Hog Summit? Hog Summit?
Now that would be awesome. I'm gonna say it's not a tournament series.
Okay.
Though I do have big plans. So maybe you mentioned it in the introduction that you might talk about Hog's future. So maybe I'll leave it for that part.
Yeah. If you want to like wrap it up and talk about what does Hog's future look like? I mean, obviously you mentioned 2XKO and other games that come out like repeatedly.
Yeah.
You'll add them to the lineup, but I know you mentioned the new project. What do you think?
Yeah. So yeah, natural progression of new fighting games coming out, being at the local, that's like pretty straightforward. One of the things that I did, like kind of like right when COVID hit, I was feeling very unfulfilled with my job, and I wanted to pursue a project. So I was building a website to rival StartGG. I was building a platform for running tournaments, and because I was a TO, and I'm like, I did with what I did with Hog was, if only I had control of like of like this. I'm noticing a pattern here. If only I had control of like this sort of thing and put my own features in it, I could put a bunch of work in it and front the money, whatever needs to get done. And we could make a platform that's really powerful. So I work on that. I quit my job, and this was my full-time job at the time. I was just working on the website. And it was a really productive part of my life. I was running every day, which I've just recently started to do again, which is very healthy for me, but to make a lifestyle change like that. But yeah, I was running every day. I was practicing Melee. I was working on this website, and I got 10 months in, and I was running low on money, and I had like a crossroads where I was like, I could either give up on this and just get another job to pay the bills, because I'm down to my last couple months of rent, or I can find funding. I can like try to get funding from like somebody, or I have friends who are software engineers who might be willing to put in some money. I actually was hanging out with a friend at like some like, I don't know, poker night we had, and his brother-in-law works at a venture capitalist firm, and he actually pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, that thing you were talking about, you should like pitch it to my company. They could be down." And suddenly things were getting very real. Like I was just doing this because I didn't like my job. But suddenly like this guy's like, "Hey, they might be able to give you like $1 million or $2 million to do this." And I'm like,
whoa,
what? So suddenly I'm like, dude, that's so much to work. Like, what if it doesn't work? Like, obviously it's their call to invest or not, but what if it doesn't work? What if I like, completely fail and like I don't know how to build a website for that's scalable? I've never done that before. I used to make websites for, some small companies, but they were pretty basic, so it was like kind of getting intimidating, and I kind of backed down. So I did not get investment. I just got another job thinking, hey, maybe this job will be better. It turns out it was similar, and 6 months later, I made the call to add fighting games to Hog, and I quit my job to do it. And since then, it's been great. I've never been happier. So, relating that to the future, eventually Hog grows enough that like I can pay employees to do what I do at Hog. And then with that passive income, I can then work on the website permanently, like until it's done.
Yeah.
So that's the dream. Is Hog gets successful enough, I pay employees, they do my work, and then I work on the website, and then eventually the website launches, and there's like a very clear avenue to getting the website to like branch out outside of Hog, because I have a tournament series. Suddenly 11 different communities are being exposed to my platform. I use it, so I'm gonna be a customer as well. Like I will find out all the bugs, all the issues with it as I'm using it. And I know most of the TOs in the Northeast, and if I can get whoever Boston, New York, like other people to start using my platform, suddenly the rest of the country starts seeing, okay, this is picking up. This is like these has features that are better,
Right.
And maybe that is a natural growth, and maybe I get bought out by Google eventually. I don't know. Who knows what happens? If I get bought out by Google, we build Hog 2, which is
Ooh.
a major venue that does whatever, has a restaurant, has a bar, has a
Super
hotel.
Giga Hog.
I don't know. Yeah, super Giga Hog. Yeah. So I mean, seriously, a new venue is something I would like. Also, it doesn't have to be. I don't have to get bought up by Google to make that happen, but I do have to pay off the debts that we've like accrued from me quitting my job and making this happen. So once I'm like debt free and Hog has that additional disposable income, maybe we find like another space that has air conditioning, that has either more space, a better furnished space, maybe like something that lets us like start to sell food. Something I very admire about Balance Patch is that they have like reasonably priced, tasty food that is right there.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
that place was built to be what it is, right?
Yeah.
Something I very much appreciate about them. Shout outs to Shidang, who
Hey.
fronted that. Yeah. Big Blue Esports. But yeah, so like eventually I would like to make Hog something that mirrors something like Balance Patch, with keeping all of the things that make Hog Hog. So like being open late, being like a home for a lot of people, being free to come in and play games. Like at Hog, you don't have to pay anything unless you're actually in a tournament. So you could come and
That's
play Melee
super
with people,
cool, man.
or honestly, going on our PCs, hundreds and hundreds of Steam games that are free. Like you could just go on and you play. My entire Steam library is free to play on there.
Wow.
So, it's insane. If I had a place like this when I was growing up, or whenever, I probably would have gone every day. So
Wow.
that's something that I'm very happy to provide for people. So
Yeah, very cool. I mean, look, I look at I look at you. I know you, how you run things, and I know how polished you are. I believe you can get there. I mean, hey,
yeah.
anything to compete against Star GG's monopoly, all of a sudden the website could be better. That's my take.
Sure.
That's,
Yeah, it could be better. And it's actually a shame that they were pressured by, the people who invested in them to like ship a product that wasn't done yet, or like, I'm sure there's a lot of talented developers there, and it's not on like their fault that things are not as like powerful as they could be. And maybe, I'm not somebody who's ever done this before. Maybe there's like roadblocks that I don't know about, that are things that are like stopping them from growing or adding features that are helpful.
It has gotten better, I will say, but I mean,
for sure,
there's still obviously way more work to be done, for sure.
Yeah, and just features that could be possible, like for example, like an automatic recreation of like I would say, I mean, maybe I don't have their data. I would say most tournaments on StartGG are locals that happen every week, the same exact information, but they're not linked together on the platform. They're not like, you can't go to the next and the previous one. Like they're like, you can't like, when I search like Hawk, why doesn't it show me the Hawk that's been to 100 hogs? And I have to scroll like for like, however long. Why can't it like recommend me like people that come every week, as
Yeah.
as like players that added it? Or why can't I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that
Right,
that
right,
could
right.
be incredible that I have visions for that I haven't been able to realize yet because of just financial reasons and time reasons. So, but hopefully, maybe 5 years from now, we'll have a good platform. That's a generous estimate. So who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with Hog and how quickly we can get there. So
All right. Well, I mean, this for being our first interviewee for the locals and local TOs, I think you did an amazing job. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks.
Thanks for
Yeah.
being here. I mean, I think Hog, like I said, I mean, Hog, from afar, like I wish sometimes I could just like teleport myself to Hog because
Yeah.
I just think anytime I go there, I have a great time. It's amazing, and I see the way
Thanks.
people talk about Hog, like even people that don't go there super often or they just go there one time a week. Like it's just I think you've cultivated something really special here. And so
Thank you.
you should be really proud of yourself and I think you've done a great job. So thank you
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
much from the community. You've done a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also am very proud of it. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for us. For those of you that watched through this entire podcast, this is like I think the total count. I think we're nearing 3 hours of this whole podcast. So this is just one segment, but thank you to those of you that watched all the way through. I'm not quite sure when we're going to release the next episode. Probably. We're going to see if we can do monthly, perhaps. But Nick and I have a great time doing these, and we had a lot of fun with these interviews. So. Thank you for watching. Please share and subscribe, of course. And yeah, cheers to New England Melee. Cheers to Hog. Thank you, Arty, again.
Thank you. Yeah.